I'd like to call the regular meeting for May 9th to order, please. So, Council, we need a adoption of the minutes of April 25th, please. First, Councillor Peak, Councillor Holmes, thank you. And all in favor? Thank you. Carries. Okay. Why are there two?
One of them's committee of the whole and two of them are council.
Okay, thanks. Okay, on to 2.2, committee of the whole minutes for adoption. Mover and seconder, please. Councillor Holmes, Councillor Booth, thank you. All in favor? Resolution to adopt the agenda. Are there any amendments or changes, Corporate Officer?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, since the original circulation of the agenda on Thursday, item number 11.1 and item number 14.3 have been replaced, the document, just with some housekeeping changes. There was some edits that needed to be done. And then I do have a late item. It's a zoning amendment for RPN zone. I'd like to put it as bylaw item number 14.4, please.
Okay, thank you very much.
And I've circulated it to everyone.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
We have a motion to adopt the agenda as amended, please. Councillor Barkville, thank you. Councillor Holmes, all in favor? Thank you. Carries. Moving ahead now to delegations. Mr. Leahy, 5.1.
John Leahy, Summerland Motel. Good evening, Mr. Mayor, council members. Firstly, if I could just give you some handouts. I apologise for the lateness. I just got hold of these. It's only for reference. It's nothing you need to be concerned about. I think I made my dissatisfaction plain at the last council meeting regarding the decision taken in a secret meeting to remove the irrigation supply to my business premises. Despite the fact that we have had this supply for many years, so it should be grandfathered, and had our eligibility for such supply confirmed by the district in both 2014 for the 15 season and 2015 for the 16 season, and as we had paid for this service of water, I am requesting that you reverse your decision, either through a variance or some other means of your disposal. I have no problem with the district reviewing water resources and trying to put in place a plan to fund the necessary infrastructure to cope with the requirements of the population of Summerland. Indeed, that's one of your functions. However, I do have a problem with the way you take decisions in order to brush inconvenient situations under the carpet, and I would also point out that you undermined your own Director of Public Works, who at the time was doing his best to find a solution to the problem at hand. And I will repeat that in taking a decision in secret that could only affect one business in this town, and that was the Summerland Motel, I believe that the district officials were acting discriminatory and, frankly, putting you in breach of a water supply contract. Now, as a member of His Worship's Economic Task Force, I can tell you that one of the most vexing issues facing this committee is how to make Summerland an easier place to do business in order to try and encourage badly needed investment by both resident businesses and outside investors alike. Business is not the enemy, and the District of Summerland has no authority to try and stop the clock. And I'm sure I don't need to remind you that as councillors, you have a duty to represent all members of the community, including all the businesses here. Now, water supply is an issue in many communities, and the reason I gave you those is I simply wanted to draw your attention to how other people actually do it. And the opening sentence on the piece of paper I gave you says, notice of public hearing and protest instructions for proposed changes to water rates and rate structure. And just for reference, this piece of paper actually refers to the Coachella Valley in Southern California, which is about 100 miles east of Los Angeles and extends from the city of Riverside through Palm Springs, Rancho Mirage, and east through to Indio, which is presently billed as the date-growing capital of the world. It is an agricultural area. It has a large tourism sector, in addition to a substantial number of retirees, and in fact mirrors the Okanagan Valley, other than on a larger scale. Now, as you can see, if you look through this at your leisure, which I hope you will, they have a somewhat different way of doing things. It's far more open, far more transparent than we do here. And I note, although I did hear that you might have actually pulled it from this evening's agenda, that you had a water bylaw amendment on this agenda, and I was simply going to suggest that you postpone it until you get a comprehensive and logical water supply strategy that all the people of this town can comment on. So my my request is that you actually reverse the decision you made, and I hope you will. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you. So what's our next step? CAO.
You can discuss it, or you could ask questions from the report that you have. So it's an appeal, just to be clear, it's an appeal of the CAO's decision.
I see. So, council, do you have any questions of staff regarding the material in our agenda package? Councillor Carlson?
I'm just wondering if this is more of a issue regarding billing and the cost of water that would be charged now that it's domestic, the commercial line, or if it's more about wanting that service as a completely separate service. Is it about the rate, or is it about the line?
The issue is about the rate of payment to supply water to the landscaping.
And do we know how much more the cost would be to just use the water that is currently being supplied versus turning on the irrigation water and paying that rate for the few months that it's on?
We don't know, because last year he was using the water from the regular service.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, I need a little clarification because, as I understand it, we're looking at second service connection situation, and comparable properties such as the Rosedale and Summerland waterfront do not receive second service. Oh, okay.
That's right. So in the report, if
Just
you,
not-
no. So did you want to repeat it, or
No,
so
go
I
ahead.
just so the question that there's a number of other commercial properties that don't receive that came into the decision when staff looked at what recommendation to do for the original decision. And when we go back to the bylaw, because as we've explained to council, second services, there's a lot of confusion around domestic second service. That the bylaw is clear in both the definition in the water rates bylaw and the fees and charges bylaw that it's for domestic use, not commercial use. And in the report, we supplied the definitions, and they both talk about domestic seasonal water and around domestic residents. So that's the only vehicle that we have to supply domestic seconds. So most of the commercial properties do not have a domestic second because they're not domestic. I can't say that there's no other commercial on the list of second services that are receiving it. That's exactly what we're in the process of trying to fix, and those properties will be approached, and not, unless the bylaws change, there is no vehicle to supply domestic second services at that rate to commercial properties. So yes, you're right, the Rosedale Motel and the waterfront do not receive second services.
So it would be an exception to have this particular business having a second service?
It would be an exception.
Yes. So the fact that there was a second service before indicates, it wasn't used for 3 years, but that may or may not be of consequence. There was a disconnection due to the servicing of the sewer.
And unfortunately, this is one of the situations that this council has made an attempt to correct. There's lists and there's history involved in some of these. This is the listing of all the the residences that have domestic second. Most of them fit the criteria as they're supposed to be. But over the past few years, there's a number have been brought on and taken off and brought on, and frankly, it's not consistent. And that is what, after we did the agricultural work that we've been working on, the domestic seconds was the next step.
Okay. Councillor Barkwell.
I put this in the same category as all those people who received domestic or maybe a second irrigation service for no charge for all those years as a mistake that we're trying to correct, and that a commercial establishment should have received irrigation connection and irrigation rates or free for a period, as the second ones weren't charged. I don't know if he was in that group or not. Is us correcting it to bring some equity into the situation from all sorts of different inequitable situations that existed before.
That's the approach that staff took when the original decision was made, when I asked for council support on that. The rationale was that it was an error to have it, and it didn't match the definition of bylaw, as opposed to making another error.
I see. Councillor Peak.
So in fact, when I read the report and I listen to Mr. Leahy's presentation, there is actually no support within our fees and charges bylaw to allow us to do a reversal of the decision, because it wouldn't be supported by the bylaw itself.
That's correct.
Okay. Councillor Holmes.
I think Mr. Leahy does raise some issues that we know, that we're aware of in terms of our internal and external communication, which I think we're aware of and we need to improve on. But the principle of receiving unmetered water, I think that's something we're trying to get away from. And you know, that the so-called secret meeting, it was an in-camera meeting where staff were asking. We didn't make a decision. I don't think wasn't really a council decision. This was a staff decision, and staff asked us for direction. And I believe we just, my recollection is, we just reaffirmed that principle that we want to move in the direction where people are paying for the water they use, and that's a principle I believe in. And so that's the direction that we should be moving in towards.
Anybody else?
Just,
Councillor Peak.
and my understanding is, regardless of how the water was delivered, the water would all be treated water, whether it was a secondary service or whether it was a domestic service. Is that correct?
That's correct. It's the same water.
Okay, have you had enough discussion? Because we can move forward in that we can uphold our decision previously, or or reverse it, but at the same time, it's a matter of upholding, I believe. If that's
So the motion would either be, just because you don't have it in your package, you would either say that that Mr. Leahy's appeal to reconsider the second service line be approved or be denied.
Okay, thank you. So would someone like to bring a resolution forward? Be a question or comment, please?
Yeah, but then it disappeared.
That's supposed to be my problem.
I know.
Councillor Booth?
I have a question.
Okay.
It says in the report that, and I'm not sure how this would have happened, but that last year the Summerland Motel was inadvertently charged.
Yes.
So I think I agree with what it states in here, that money should be refunded.
Yeah.
I don't know if that
It was
should be part of the resolution or not.
No, it would
okay.
it would be refunded because the service wasn't in existence. The person
Okay.
that was working on the meter saw the service there, and they advised finance to charge for it, but it wasn't in
Okay.
existence, so it will be refunded.
Thank you.
Councillor Carlson?
It came back.
Good.
How long does it, or do we anticipate it's going to be before we have a full strategy and solution on second services? Is it within the year, or are we talking about a very long-term? I know it's super complicated and they're working on it, but do we have a ballpark?
It's absolutely within the year. Our focus has been the bylaw, the agricultural rates that are on the agenda tonight. The next step was the second services, and we have done a great deal of work amongst that, so I don't anticipate it being very long at all.
So following up to that then, would there be some discussion within that about who might be able to get a second service or not get another second service or reinstall or get rid of all of them? Is that part of that conversation? And would this perhaps be something that should be discussed, and the commercial rate and perhaps second service? Is that
I mean, that would be
Come up
something
or
new
not?
for council to discuss. As I said, in the bylaw right now, there is nothing in the bylaw that addresses or introduces the idea of a commercial property receiving water at that, at a flat fee like that.
Okay, thanks.
Councillor Trainer.
Would you be able to just clarify what the other hotels are currently getting, what their watering system is right now?
Well, typically, anyone that doesn't have a second service, they would just be getting their water through their commercial, through their business service.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, someone like to bring a resolution forward then? Either denial or approval? Councillor Barkle.
I'll move that Mr. Leahy's, I guess it's an application?
Appeal.
Appeal be denied. Appeal.
Okay, thank you. Seconder, please. Councillor Booth, thank you. So the motion will read that Mr. Leahy's appeal and reconnection of the second service line will be denied, correct? Okay, all in favor? Opposed? None opposed, carries. Thank you very much. Pardon me? You were opposed? Okay, I'm sorry. We're gonna have to have a bit of a delay in the, well,
Just always ask.
yeah, I should always ask, I'm sorry. Okay, we're moving on to the item 6, public comment opportunity. So any member of the public can have an opportunity to speak now on any highlighted item in the agenda. So if anybody would like to do so, they can come forward now. Okay, well, doesn't appear as there's going to be anybody moving forward, so we'll go to 7, I guess that's my report. Okay, it's been a pretty traumatic week, this last week or so, and I'd like to say that our hearts go out to the residents of Fort McMurray. The devastation of their city and anxiety over tremendous loss and change in their lives is hard to imagine. I would urge Summerland residents to be careful and vigilant. We have the second largest watershed in the Okanagan Basin, and we must take care to avoid putting this large forested area at risk of wildfire. In addition, we have a number of interface areas where housing developments and other structures mix with natural tree vegetation. A considerable amount of risk reduction work has been carried out by our fire department in these areas over the last several years. Now, this subject was addressed from the Okanagan Basin Water Board perspective with a report by the CEO, Anna Warwick-Sears, where she indicated that the British Columbia River Forecast Center reported a rapid loss in snowpack from above average to below average due to unusually hot and dry conditions over the last month. For example, the Brendamine snow pillow data at 1,453 meters showed a rapid loss of snow at lower elevations, so levels now are well below average. On May 1st, I was honored to be asked by our Royal Canadian Legion to participate in VE celebrations at the Canyon View Cemetery. My wife and I also attended the celebration dinner at the Legion. We appreciated the opportunity to participate and represent the District of Summerland. I've had a number of residents over the last several weeks mention their concern over the condition of many of the district's roads. As many of you know, we are redoing a major section of Garnet Valley Road as we twin the water system in the area. Major works of this nature are very costly, and we've been fortunate to partner with funding from the federal and provincial governments for the the shares of this $6 million project. Work will start this fall. In addition, we have received funding assistance, as was mentioned, I believe, the last council meeting, for several asset management studies. This work will assist us in determining the priority of need in renewing our infrastructure. That is, our pipes in the ground, water, sewer, electrical, and roads over the next number of years. And I might add, I think until some of these asset management studies are done, it's would be not appropriate to, move ahead very quickly on sort of an ad hoc basis to try and address certain situations. This will establish our priorities for that kind of work. In addition, as a last note, my wife and I attended the Saturday night session of the Blossom Pageant. The candidates were absolutely amazing, extremely impressive in how they displayed their talents and other aspects of their training. I'd like to congratulate our new Blossom Queen, Sarah Gottwald, our princesses, Kush Saran and Chloe Collins, and Miss Congeniality, Sydney Chick. Thank you. That's my report.
Thank you.
Yep.
I've just got 3 things to report on. First of all, I don't think I've had a chance to let council know yet that I attended a transit meeting last week at the regional district, or RDOS. We're doing some work with the various communities in RDOS on transit's next step towards integration. We're looking at not a full regionalization program yet, but integration to ensure that there's better connections for the buses between the small communities getting into Penticton, getting and also BC Transit, we're looking at the possibility of, they have some work that they're doing with some expansion over the next 3 years, and one of the main things that was identified is transportation up to Kelowna. So basically getting residents in this area to West Kelowna, so that once you're in West Kelowna, you can link into their rapid transfer systems there. So we're having a number of these meetings now. There's nothing to report out too much other than they are looking at these schedules and starting to work on what would it take to move the schedules to have these better integration. Secondly, this one's just a little side note. I happened to be in Nelson last week, and already the news of our Arts and Culture Center and what is happening in Summerland here has filtered to some of the more prominent artists and people in Nelson, and they were, as soon as they saw me, they were asking, they had heard about it. So that was kind of an interesting thing for me, that the work that we've been doing both with the Cultural Task Force and they're looking at the center. They were fully aware of what the initiatives. And the third piece, as council's aware, we had the land sale for the former RCMP lands closed on Friday afternoon. We received 2 bids. We have subsequently closed on one of them, and well, we haven't closed on it. We've accepted the offer for purchase, so it has one subject only on it, and the sales agreement is signed now, and that is for $705,000. And it's, like I said, there's one subject, and that's in regards with the zoning amendment application that will be coming through later today.
Thank you. Okay, corporate officer, do we have anything under 9.1 to bring forward?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. No.
Okay, thank you. Okay, correspondence 10.1, correspondence list. Any councillors have anything they want to bring up from the list? Councillor Peak.
Just like to highlight that both our Development Services Department and our Building Department have been very busy, and that reflects well on the initiatives within the community. There's obviously a feeling of optimism in terms of 3 single-family dwellings, and the reflection in the permit numbers as well.
Thank you. I might ask the planning department, this is a little out of order, but the numbers that we see there, it looks like we're trending similar to last year.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, we're up in both our permits. You can see the year-to-date and the monthly are up significantly over all the way from 2012 to 2015. We're exceeding those numbers. And the planning stats as well, we're past our halfway mark from last year, and we're not near halfway through the year yet. So, yes, we are.
Thank you, that's very encouraging. Okay, any other councillors, any things they want to bring up? Okay. Could we have a motion to receive the correspondence, please? Councillor Barkle, thank you. Seconder, please. Councillor Peak, all in favor? Motion is carried. And we're all unanimous. 10.2, Commission and Committee Minutes. Anything there that Council wishes to bring forward? Hearing none, could I have a motion to receive, please? Councillor Booth, thank you. Seconder, Councillor Barkle. All in favor? It's unanimous. Thank you. Okay. CAO 10.3.
You have the report in your package with a request from Minister Shirley Bond regarding Tourism Week. Rather than putting it just in the information package, we brought it out for discussion. It's asking to appoint Mayor Waterman or a designate to spend 1 hour on May 30th at the Visitor Information Center, and this will be happening across the province.
Okay. I think I can probably handle the 1 hour, as long as it doesn't mean a great deal of expertise in tourism. Someone like to bring that forward then, as written? Thank you. Councillor Traynor. Seconder, please. Councillor Barkle. All in favor? Thank you. I guess I'm the designate. Thank you.
You'll enjoy it.
Okay, 11.1, Development Services Report. CEO?
That one will turn over to Mr. Planner. However, in this particular one, we may, if it's all right with council, ask that the applicant have an opportunity to speak. But did you want to introduce it first?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, that's the normal procedure here. So I'm just waiting for the television screen to come up. This is an OCP and zoning amendment application for the property at 16219 Highway 97. The request is to amend the OCP from agriculture to tourist commercial and rezone the property from A1 agricultural to CH highway commercial. And the property is located, as I mentioned, on the east side of Highway 97 at the intersection of Jones Flat Road, immediately north of the commercial property that exists in that location already. The property is entirely located within the agricultural land reserve. However, the property is under 2 acres in 1972 on a separate title. So that means that it's exempt from the ALR regulations. So the ALR rules of use are not an issue in this particular case. The property is located outside the urban growth area, and I'll explain the significance of that in a moment. And it is designated currently on the OCP as agriculture. There is no sanitary sewer in the area as well. The sanitary sewer is significantly south of that property. So with respect to the official community plan, there's a number of policies that speak to commercial development along the highway. The most significant is in 6.2.3.8, and it states that Summerland should limit visible commercial development along Highway 97 with the exception of the section between Prairie Valley Road and Rosedale, which is essentially between the two lights. As I mentioned before, the property is outside the urban growth area, and the OCP also suggests that the primary objective of the urban growth area is to direct residential and commercial growth to central areas, either with existing infrastructure or plan for future development. And the outlying areas should be preserved for industrial, agricultural, forestry, tourism, or recreation. And it further states in the OCP with respect to the growth area that areas outside the urban growth area will retain existing zoning rights. However, additional density or upzoning for residential or commercial uses will be discouraged. So the OCP has a number of policies that speak to this issue. As I mentioned, the property is currently zoned A1. And there are a number of zoning issues that can be resolved if the application goes forward. Right now, the proposal doesn't meet the zoning bylaw regulations, but it probably could. And before we get the applicant to go out and spend some money fixing these issues, we thought it was reasonable for council to weigh in as to whether they support commercial expansion in this area. And the issues that have to be sorted through are the Ministry of Highways has weighed in and suggested that there should be a blockage on the south side of the subject property so that there is no ability to enter from Highway 97. All access has to come from Jones Flat Road. And there is some issue with that. If somebody were to see the sign and pull into this little road end attempting to get access, they wouldn't be able to and would have to wind their way through the existing development and then up through the easement to the property in the back. So the access is intended to be off Jones Flat Road as required by the Ministry of Highways. The width allowable between the buffer that's required and the building that's there now isn't quite wide enough to meet our bylaw. There is a requirement for a 4.6 meter wide buffer now. That wasn't in place when the property was developed as commercial, the existing one. There was instead a requirement for a 3 meter wide vegetative buffer, and the space is there for that 3 meter. It's not there at the moment for a 4.6. There would have to be an access easement across to access the car wash. There's a requirement for a 4.6 meter buffer and fence adjacent to the farm land in the ALR to the east. And because the property is not connected to sewer, there would have to be a septic field, which is slated for the north part of the property. So at this point, the application was also referred to our Advisory Planning Commission as well as our Agricultural Advisory Committee. Both those groups did not support the application or recommend the council support the application, essentially because of the policy currently in the official community plan. So staff at this point are not recommending that the application receive support.
Thank you. Any questions for the planner, please? Councillor Holmes.
Where's the access to the property now?
That's a very good question. I believe the access to the property now is in this spot here.
No, it's off of Jones Flat.
This property? That property doesn't front on Jones Flat.
Oh, you mean the current one?
You're talking about the subject property, Council.
Yes.
Yes, there is no access at the moment to this property from Jones Flat other than through the neighboring property. They are currently owned by the same person, but there's no legal right for that at the moment.
So it's the legal access to that property?
The legal access to the property is off Highway 97. The practical access could be through the neighboring property to the south.
So MOT is saying that if changes are made, then that what's currently illegal access, what's currently acceptable to them won't be acceptable?
That's correct. They're suggesting that for a single-family house, the current access is fine because it's been there and it's grandfathered essentially. If there's going to be a zoning change to increase the density of use to commercial, that would be removed and have to be accessed from the south.
Okay.
Councillor Pete.
What is the usage on the present property that is closest to the corner?
This property down here is currently a sales operation for truck canopies.
Because it looks like a commercial business from
Yes.
a general view.
Okay, perhaps I'll make a comment that over the last number of years that I've been involved, locally there's been a consistent policy that development will be mostly concerned with Prairie Valley to Rosedale, and we've tried to avoid commercial development along the highway. There have been a couple of exceptions. One is the mechanics or the garage past Sumac Bridge. That was a one-off at the time. There was a lot of discussion around that, and I believe even the canopy sales point was also created quite a bit of discussion, and it was, as far as I remember, being something that was contrary to what was generally looked at along the highway. Is that correct, Mr. Planner?
That is correct. The history on the southern property is, I believe it was a church in the distant past, and then it was a Fraternal Order of Eagles Hall for a while. And because of that history, it was a lesser of a leap to get the commercial zoning,
I
which
see.
it did receive. There was a covenant placed on the property and a number of issues, and there was a lot of discussion at the time.
So it appears as though, it looks now as if, okay, it's sort of acceptable and it was a foot in the door, so why not have more? And I think that indicates, the bylaw, our information is such that it's not something that was desirable anyway, and that's why your explanation now is why it happened at the time. Yeah. Okay, council, would somebody like to, any more discussion at all? Someone like to bring a resolution forward, please?
Could I have a question?
Oh, Councillor Peak, yes.
This has been circulated within the neighborhood.
Yes.
Have we received any comments from any of the neighboring properties?
I haven't received, and actually then the notices will go out if the bylaw gets first reading before the public hearing, so I'm not sure that I don't believe the notices actually have gone out as yet.
Thank you.
But we haven't heard any comment from anyone.
Councillor Booth.
It shows the proposed building in red and then possible future building expansion to the, I don't know what direction that is, north?
Yes.
Will it, assuming, and that's just an assumption, that the future building expansion will also be a car wash, is that proposed septic area, is that adequate to fulfill all of the drainage requirements?
Mr. Mayor, those details, we haven't got that far yet. If the land use is approved and it's deemed to be an appropriate place for this sort of commercial development, all those issues will get sorted out as the applications come forward, and if a septic field would support more growth and they want to do that, that would be fine. If not, then they couldn't.
Okay.
Councillor
Yeah, that was
Carlson.
kind of a silly question, sorry.
Other than having a single-family house or using it for agriculture, is there any other permitted use, such as a winery or a fruit stand or a worker accommodation, anything like that, that might fit better with tourist commercial but not be big commercial highway development?
Mr. Mayor, certainly a winery or any kind of agricultural use would be permitted. Second dwelling for farm help would not be permitted unless there's enough agriculture going on that parcel to warrant a second dwelling, which is unlikely given the size of it. So it could be farmed, which includes a winery. Other than that, that's about all that could go on there while it's got the zoning that it currently has.
Okay, would somebody like to bring a recommendation forward, please? Councillor Barco.
I'll move that the application to amend OCP designation of Lot 2, District Lot 472, ODYD, Plan 6532, located at 16219 Highway 97, from agriculture to tourist commercial, and rezone from A1 agriculture small acreage to CH Highway commercial be denied.
Thank you. Have a seconder, please. Councillor Carlson, thank you. Any further discussion? Councillor Holmes.
Yeah, I agree with the motion as presented, just because I think it is too much of a deviation from our OCP, and if we wanted to make a change like that, it's really, that it would come down to an OCP review process, and so I think it's just too much of a leap of deviation from the OCP.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's starts to open the door to an area of development that has never been suitable for Summerland's highway areas, trying to make sure we have as much development of this nature occurring within the OCP designated area or the downtown area or industrial areas. Councillor Peak?
Yeah, I certainly understand the applicant's desire to have a business on the highway, because a car wash is something that could easily attract tourists in terms of a service business. I just think the location may not be the most highly desirable. although this corner, in fact, is beginning to get well used. When you look at a market on one side and a canopy sales on the other, there is an intensification, so that there may be an opportunity if council wishes to look at it, to look at a change in the OCP. But at present, it doesn't fit the policy.
Actually, I missed a beat in there. We should have asked the proponent, Mr. Giannotti, would you like to speak to this issue?
Yes, if I could.
Please do. I should have asked you earlier. I apologize for that.
Thank you. Thanks for letting me speak on this. One of the things that, this stems back quite a bit of history with Mr. Clark. First of all, my name is George Giannotti. I'm acting on agent for Mr. Clark. Mr. Clark had purchased 3 properties on this intersection, this large one that we're talking about to the north, and then there was 2 smaller parcels where the current canopy operation is now. About 5 years ago, we came to council to request the consolidation of those 2 lots for this office building. And at that time, council and staff had approved the amalgamation of the 2 parcels to allow this canopy use at that intersection. Also at that time, council had okayed a 3-meter buffer. And the reason for that is that time the buffers were going through quite a history of the size and the amount of planting and screening, and so a 3-meter buffer was allowed to be used at this location. The other reason as well, it wasn't an agricultural use on the property next door. Right now it's being currently used as an industrial operations for dump trucks and loaders and gravel and so on. So it's not an agricultural use. The property to the north that we're requesting the commercial use is, in fact, has lots of room for buffers, so we have no problem installing the 4.6 meter buffer at that location. Part of the Mr. Clark's goal was to, and again, you have to look at how the financing of these businesses occur. He could not amalgamate the properties together at that time. What he is doing now is that his intent is to now amalgamate this parcel once it gets rezoned, if it goes that way, amalgamate it with the canopy and also apply for a road closure on that little square of actual road right away. At this time, we're not quite sure who actually owns that right away. It's either belongs to the Ministry of Transportation and Highways through the Crown or through municipalities. At this time, we haven't got that word yet. So this is the long-term goal into trying to tidy up that intersection and in a sense that legally trying to tie up the parcels and also trying to tidy up one of the entrances coming into town. It's used to be a peach block many years ago. The remnants of the trees are still on the property. There is an old house there that's been rented off Mr. Clark, just to keep it somewhat cleaned and the grass cut. We do have support from the adjoining property owner. Billy Borbum is the owner of the orchard. He loves the idea of the additional buffer that we are proposing there. He does have his own buffer because of the spray drifts. However, he's in support of this only because he can see that the rodents will be cleaned up at that location because there is issues around his properties in that area that have mole and rodent issues. So he's definitely in favor of this, and he's asked council if they have any questions to come to him personally, and he could make that comment as well. So it's a long step process again in in the history of his bringing his business into Summerland. The goal is to work within his budget, and that's why we're staging the operations. He's looking at $1 million in creating the first phase of a car wash, which is in keeping with his canopy and accessory business. It's all related to the cars and detailing and accessory components for vehicles. That's why he's trying to just, like I say, clean up the properties, take the road away and get better displays going. And then, once that is, it's becomes somewhat profitable, the next stage would be add, similar bays, but the area to the north is there for future uses of the septic system and also for the drainage of the use of the property. We have really good gravels there. We may have used more than that's required, but with buffers and everything else going there. They're also looking at possibly doing, while the parents are vacuuming and cleaning cars, there's a play area for the kids as well, just to distract them. So it's a long-term goal. He has made the choice of, bringing in more money to the community. It's just that he needs the support like he did for his canopy place from this council to continue the expansion. He understands that it's outside of the current OCP and zoning. However, the council of the day felt that it was a big point to tidy up that intersection and again to improve the business of his operation of business in Summerland, and in turn also cleaning up that entry coming into town.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
That's a
Any further discussion, council? Hearing Mr. Giannotti. Councillor Carlson.
I can appreciate that we don't necessarily want to take land out of the ALR, but I don't think that's what this is about. I think this is about the OCP and the fact that we have rules in place and we have a designated area where we will do or will allow development along the highway, and unfortunately this is not one of those areas at this point in time. I can appreciate that the neighbors would like to have the area cleaned up and that perhaps the house is falling into disrepair, but that doesn't mean that it has to stay like that. It just means that a car wash, in my view, is not the best use of land and not the most, attractive thing that we could probably do to improve that corner and that intersection. I think there's other ways that perhaps we could come to some sort of agreement and see something that would be suitable, that would also benefit the community and Mr. Clare and the rules that are currently in place.
Thank you. Councillor Barkwell.
I imagine there's other people in the community who have land that isn't zoned commercial that would like to see commercial development on it, like a car wash or something, and use exactly the same arguments. And I sort of see why it was controversial to put the canopy place there to begin with, because it doesn't fit, and it leads to exactly this sort of thing here. And the next thing we might be seeing is, okay, we have the car wash here and we'd like to have a used car lot on the rest of the property, and it's not our vision for Summerland. It's not part of our official community plan, and these applications should come on appropriate properties, I believe.
Thank you. Any further comment or discussion? Okay, we've had a mover and seconder. All in favor? Thank you. Opposed? Unopposed. Motion's carried. Thank you very much. Okay, we're moving on to 11.2. Sorry, I lost myself for a minute. ALR exclusion application for 12914 Prairie Valley Road.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is an application to exclude a portion of the property as shown on the screen. Again, that's the north side of Prairie Valley Road as it goes around at the foot of Cartwright Mountain. The property is currently located within the ALR. It's approximately 9 acres in size. and is designated and zoned for agriculture. There is a vineyard going on part of the property. A bit of history there, the property immediately to the west. This portion was fairly recently removed from the agricultural land reserve because of its inability to be farmed due to the topography and the soil type, and that was supported with an ag report at the time. So this application has been received to exclude the property from, or portion of the property from the land reserve. It's adjacent to the urban growth boundary. These are the been known as the college lands, owned by the municipality. It's designated as agriculture on the community plan. And you can see, as we get in a little tighter there is a vineyard operating on the eastern half-ish of the property. The application here is to exclude the portion as shown on this map. There are some issues around that. One of them is that the remaining parcel would be 1.4 hectares in size, which is on this side of the line here, on the east side. It is zoned A1, so if the intent was to subdivide this property off, it would leave a remainder that does not meet our minimum lot size in the A1 zone. The minimum lot size is 2 hectares or 5 acres. So the approving officer could not sign that subdivision plan without some new zone or zoning change if that was the intent. So through discussions, the applicant has submitted this secondary optional proposal that leaves the vineyard portion at the minimum 2 hectares, so that could, if this was to go forward, the remaining portion could be subdivided off and remain zoned A1 and meet the rules. And the part that was excluded on the left-hand side there, which would be 1.6 hectares, would have to be zoned to something else to allow the subdivision. The application was heard by our advisory planning, or our agricultural advisory committee, and there was a lot of discussion around it, and they supported the application. Essentially, the argument was that if we're going to be saving farmland within the ALR, then we should, on the other hand, if there's land that has no agricultural value, we should be allowing that to be removed from the ALR. So they did support that application, but they had a qualifier that the remainder that was going to be in the ALR be a minimum of 2 hectares in size. So staff have taken that same recommendation and are supporting, recommending to council that the application be supported subject to the parcel remaining in the ALR be a minimum of 2 hectares in size.
Okay, thank you. Could you put up the contour lines on that property, please?
Not easily, I'm afraid.
Oh,
If you
okay,
want
I
them,
thought
I
it
can go
was,
find them for you.
yeah, I know, I'm just kind of looking at the contiguous nature to the district property above and to the west to see what they really look like.
I can advise you that the property to the west, when this one was excluded, the slope on that property is in excess of 70%. And it's similar on this side, although there is a bit of a flat spot at the top in this area. The remainder is very steep down to Prairie Valley Road.
Thank you, Councillor Booth.
Has this application also gone on to our advisory planning committee?
It hasn't gone, Mr. Mayor, to the Advisory Planning Commission yet because there's no change in land use proposed here. They only are referred applications where there's a rezoning or OCP amendment. This is simply an ALR exclusion at the moment, so they're only considered by our AAC, Agriculture Advisory. If a subsequent zoning and OCP amendment for the parcel that's to be excluded, if it goes forward, that application would be heard by the APC.
Thanks.
Any other questions of staff? Councillor Peak?
Could you just advise me if the excluded area was to be developed in any way, how would they gain access on that land?
Well, the only conceivable way I would believe that could be accessed is, and I'm not sure if we can maybe go back a slide here. Excuse me for 1 second. If we go back to... There is a road right-of-way in this location right here. It's unbuilt at the moment, so likely if this property would be developed, the only potential really is at the top. And it could conceivably be developed in conjunction with the municipal land to the north, if that was ever to happen. Otherwise, they would have to build an access through this road somehow up to a building site in this location.
Thank you.
Yeah, I guess I was, looking forward, thinking in terms of the contours, especially on the upper portion, as you just pointed out, because there would be opportunities to do an additional subdivision at some point and attach land to the other district lands to create a larger area for development, if that contour is acceptable. And so, but we don't have that information, so. But there is that, I believe, a bit of a potential there. I don't know how much area is involved. It's relatively flat, whether it's...
Yeah, there's probably a
acre.
third of that. This, essentially, a third of that property is probably developable at the top if it were connected to the piece to the north.
Yeah, I see.
On its own, it would be difficult.
Yeah, okay, thank you. Councillor Barkle.
I've hiked around there a little bit, looking at it and with a view of, the obvious thing is to develop it in conjunction with the municipal lands and the property immediately to the west, all as one overall plan. And I see this as just one step down that road, however far the end of the road is, but it's it's not a controversial thing to get out of the way at this time and might save time at some future date.
Okay. Any further questions? Someone like to bring the resolution forward, please?
I'll read the resolution.
Go ahead.
That the ALR exclusion application for Lot AM for DL 475 ODYD Plan 161 be supported and forwarded to the Agricultural Land Commission for consideration, subject to the portion of land remaining in the ALR being a minimum of 2.0 hectares in size.
Seconder, please. Councillor Trainer, thank you. Any further discussion? Councillor Carlson.
I think that this is probably one of the very few ALR exclusion applications that I could see myself supporting simply because of the way that it was cut up. It's certainly not very farmable unless you were gonna have some goats or something, and it hasn't happened. It could still happen, I suppose, if somebody wanted to do that on that hard piece of hillside, because it's not going to get developed anytime soon. So I can see myself supporting it, and I think we should build on the hills.
Thank you. Okay, did we have a seconder? Yes, we did.
Yeah.
Okay, all in favor? Thank you. Opposed? Unanimous. Thank you. Motion carries. Thank you very much. Okay, 11.3, development permit application 18006 Bentley.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is the first development application in our new M1A industrial park out on Bentley Road. It's been designated as light industrial as part of a neighborhood planning study out there a while ago. It's zoned M1A. And the proposal at the moment is for a development permit to construct a 7-unit industrial building for individual tenants. There would be 7 30-foot by 70-foot bays located there with a septic field at the front, adequate parking as shown. The access to the property is existing off Bentley Road. There would be a driveway to the existing house, which would remain for the time being. The house is now a legal non-conforming use since the OCP and zoning was changed. However, it was built lawfully at the time, so it can remain until such time as it's unoccupied. And the current proposal is to use it as watchman's quarters, and then assuming that this first phase is successful, there would be, the idea would be to build subsequent phases, at which time the house would be removed from the site. There's a lot of discussion in the staff report regarding the development permit guidelines and the fact that the proposal in staff's view does substantially conform with the guidelines. There is a drainage plan that's required that's noted on there, and if I can go up on there's a significant vegetative buffer along Bentley Road in this location that would all be retained. So the project would be screened significantly from the neighboring property. So staff are recommending issuance of the development permit, and as you can see, there's a buffer from the neighboring property here as well, waiting for that to, all of these properties to become industrial.
Questions? Councillor P? Or CAO, did you have any?
I just wanted to remind council, we don't see that many development permits other than, I mean, compared to development variance permits or zoning. Just to remember the difference being that development permits, the question is, does it meet the criteria? It's not a subjective decision on whether development permits are approved or not. If they meet the conditions of the development permit, then they are approved.
That's correct.
Okay, Councillor P?
So there's a septic field that's going to be planned for this area. This is exactly the kind of build-out that this industrial area was set aside for, and I think this is an opportunity to have this happen within the zoning that's already set in place.
Councillor Holmes?
So just picking up on what the CEO, so why is this coming to us?
In our organization, development permits are not delegated to staff. In some organizations, development permits are delegated to staff for approval. Here, it's still council. Did you want to add to that?
Yes, just following up on that, there are a number of development permits that are designated or delegated to staff. The riparian ones are one, and downtown development permits, if they're under $50,000 in value, they are delegated to staff as well. But the other ones, if they meet the guidelines in council's view, then council issues the development permit. But council still determines whether they feel what is being presented to them meets the guidelines, and staff provides our thoughts on that.
So to answer Councillor Holmes' question, is just at the time that the guidelines were developed, it was decided that it was a big enough decision that it should come to council, and that can be that can always be reviewed at some later date on whether or not development permits should now be delegated to staff, and it gets checked off, yes, they meet, or no, they don't meet. But in this case, at this point in time, it still counts.
Councillor Barkle?
Yeah, I think we had this discussion once before, and the question still remains, and I'd like to see us take some action so that they don't come to council.
We'll note that.
Yeah, I think that's sort of the consensus from before as well. I just had one question about the buffers. If this is, a series of parallel lots, industrial lots, each one of them has to have a buffer, and so it winds up being like twice the width for buffers between two. What happens when, I can see now there's still residences and stuff, but when there's another industrial lot next door, do they still have to have their buffers, or can they start using that space?
Mr. Mayor, they do not require buffers between industrial properties. As you mentioned, the dilemma here is as it goes piecemeal, we're trying to protect residential uses from the industrial as best as we can. But yes, if the neighboring properties were to go industrial, the buffer could be removed.
Yeah, I think further to that, when this whole area was designated as industrial, it was seen that the only real significant buffer would be between the Dickinson farm and the balance, correct?
That's correct.
Yeah, okay, thank you. I have an additional question about drainage. I understand there's a drainage capacity that runs along Bentley Road and empties out at the north end somewhere.
That's correct.
Now, does this drainage system from this development, is it going to be connected to that?
Mr. Mayor, not directly. The requirement is that all drainage from these properties be kept on their own site. So they have a drainage capacity. They have to have a series of dry wells or other requirements that control the drainage on their own site. Through the groundwater regime, it's quite possible that the water will eventually end up following that aquifer. But at the moment, the water is controlled on the property.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Councillor Barkle.
Yes, I have here on my computer a Bentley Road Industrial Area Stormwater Management Plan, which I haven't had time to read. In relation to this, I assume that it fits all the criteria set in that stormwater management plan?
I believe so. That's one of the documents that factors into these reviews, so I would say yes, although I haven't checked it myself.
Yeah, I think to add to that, that was related, the questions around drainage was basically to do with the development up on Rattlesnake. That concern about drainage and how that would all be happening was, I think, surrounded that.
Now, this report is from 2009 for turning it into an industrial area?
Yeah, that's what I'm getting at.
And actually, if I may, that drainage study is what caused those design guidelines regarding drainage to be incorporated into the
I see.
OCP for
Okay.
issuing development permits in this area. So it is well known, and those issues are reviewed when the
Okay.
development permit application.
That was
is
my
made.
only concern. Thank you, Councillor Parsons. Anything further? Okay, would someone like to bring that forward, please? Councillor Trainer?
That the development permit application to construct a new building on Lot 3 ODYD Plan 1178 located at 18006 Bentley Road be approved.
Seconder, please. Councillor Holmes, thank you. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Thank you. Opposed? Thank you. Motion carries. So we're moving along to 12.1, CAO.
Right, so you will see in your package a report regarding the chief election officer and the deputy election officer. This is a housekeeping item to formally appoint Jeremy Deniger as election officer and Tricia May as deputy chief elections officer, should there be a need for a by-election or other correspondence.
Okay, thank you. Someone like to bring that forward as written, please?
I'll move the motion as presented.
Thank you. Seconder, please. Councillor Trainer, thank you very much. All in favor? Opposed? Thank you. Motion carries. Okay, 12.2. We have to appoint a parcel tax review panel, CAO.
That's right, unless you need further, the report's very explanatory on this one, and we're just looking for 3 councillors to be appointed in the case that we have a parcel tax review required. We just
Two or
require
three?
3. 3.
Okay. Indicates 2 here.
No, 3.
Okay.
That's definitely 3.
Oh, that's correct. There, I see. Okay, any volunteers?
I'm available on that date.
Okay, thank you.
I'm unavailable.
You are available?
No.
Unavailable.
Okay. Anybody else?
I'm available.
Councillor Boot?
Councillor Peak, Councillor
Yes.
Boot, and
Councillor Barkle? Yep, okay. We have our 3.
It's next Wednesday. Yeah.
and we can let you know beforehand if it would be happening.
Yeah, okay, thank you. So would someone like to bring that forward with the councillors' names inserted, please? Councillor Holmes?
Move that council pass the following resolution, that councillors Peak, Boot, and Barkwell be appointed to the 2016 parcel tax review panel, and that a parcel tax review panel meeting be held on Wednesday, May 18th, 2016 at 7 p.m. to review, consider any complaints, make corrections, and authenticate the rolls.
Thank you. Seconder, please. Councillor Trainer, thank you. All in favor? Thank you. Opposed? Hearing none. Motion carries. Thank you very much. 12.3.
12.3, we have Mr. Johnson that will give a brief report on the Jones Flat and Garnet Valley Water System Separation Project.
Hi, Council. This evening, just before you is a report on an update on where we're at with the project. We kicked off in mid-April with our consultant, WSP. Since that time, they've been going through the existing drawings and existing survey information, gathering some additional survey information. We've completed a few flow tests in the Jones Flat area to look at confirming the water design that's in place right now. We sent out a notice letter to residents on April 29th to update them on the project specifically, similar to the report that was given to council previously on schedule and timelines and what to expect coming into the next few months. Notifications to shallow utility companies has been completed. Now moving forward, we're looking at finalizing the design, looking at the road right-of-way alignment and the cross-sections, analyzing the corridors and bringing a report to council next meeting to look at the proposed right-of-way with the bike lanes incorporated into it, and where we're going to look at some constraints on what may be out there, and looking for some direction from council on that standpoint. We also sent out a notice to residents where a handful of them where there's currently no road right-of-way in place, looking to move those discussions forward at the end of the month. And that's where we're at. Any questions?
Councillor Carlson?
I was reading the 2014 water availability report, and there was a comment about the amount of water that would be available from Garnet Reservoir, perhaps in a severe drought year being not enough, and that there was a recommendation, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, that there would be a way to bring water from the other storage, from the water treatment facility, to properties in Garnet Valley in a year that maybe the dam doesn't hold enough at the end of Garnet Valley. Is that part of this planning?
Yeah, there's cross connections that were initially outlined that would be reviewed and analyzed in this design.
Thanks.
Good. Councillor Barcombe?
At an early presentation about this project from Don Darling, he also talked about the storage at Garnet Valley, and I got a little lost in his explanation of just what the capacity is now with because of the new earthquake regulations and the 1,000-year event, and the having to lower the maximum capacity of the dam, lowering the level basically, which lowers the capacity. Where do we stand with that, and are we going to be able to maintain where we are now, and how many acre feet does the Garnet Valley Dam hold now?
Yeah, I don't have that information at my fingertips, but that is something that we can look at. I can say that part of this design, we will be, previously there has been a water model that has been conducted on both the Garnet Valley system and the treated water system, and that would be, there would be a similar model analysis done on the final design before it was moved forward.
It wasn't really clear at all where we were going to wind up with, what we were going to be able to do with that dam from his presentation at that time, and it sounded like things were still up in the air. I just wondered if they are still up in the air about, what we'll be able to store there.
Okay, that's something we can look into and report back further.
I think, if I might add, there was some of that information revolved around the height of the spillway versus the height of the dam. And there was concern that, we wanted to maintain the height of the water, which would be adjusted by the spillway. And then we had to look at the capacity of the creek down below to handle any, excess water, et cetera. But there were concerns about the water quality in Garnet Valley Dam if we lowered the water substantially, because there wouldn't be enough there to maintain enough water quality.
Yeah, they used to have
But
anaerobic issues, right?
Yeah, I think that's a subject that I think Mr. Johnson, as he said, will be examining and looking at as part of the information around this project. So, thank you very much, Mr. Johnson. Would somebody like to bring this report forward as to be received, please? Councillor Peak, thank you.
That the report Johns Flat and Garnet Valley Water System Separation Project Update, submitted by the Director of Works and Utilities on May 9, 2016, be received for information.
Councillor Carlson? Yep. Thank you. Seconder? All in favor? Thank you.
Thanks,
Opposed?
Chris.
Thanks.
Hearing none. Motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Johnson.
Thanks.
Now, we're on
12.4.
12.4.
So 12.4 is an application for request to waive fees for street banner installation. The report is there. It's fairly straightforward, but as you can see, the way that our policies are written, the Director of Works and Utilities can recommend granting a fee waiver, which is ultimately a grant in aid, which triggers the need for a grant in aid application. So hence, if you have questions about the actual banner, Chris is here, Ms. Coates is here as far as the grant in aid, and she's given you the background information on what your balance is this year to date.
Okay, Councillor Carlson.
Do you have any idea how many banners go up every year?
Total, no, I don't have those offhand.
But we
One
do,
a month, or?
but we have a number, and Lori may be able to help me with this, that are exempted from coming forward. They're just they're not even included in the grant and aid. They're included when the policy was made. Those ones are up there.
Yep.
Do we know how many of those are, Lori, or not offhand?
Yeah, we have 10.
10 of those.
10 on the list, yeah.
So there's 10 on the list that just automatically we accommodate that.
Okay. Counselor, who's next? Nobody? Counselor Trainer?
Can I bring it forward?
Yes, of course.
Okay. That the Summerland Bluegrass Festival receive a grant and aid of $210 for the waiver of the street banner installation fees.
Seconder? Counselor Boot, thank you. Any more discussion? No. All in favor? Oh. Pardon me?
Speak into your microphone, please.
Moving too fast again.
Oh, I was too fast?
No
okay,
discussion. Just, I think it's worth looking at some point at this list of 10 things, which are, you know, the way I personally look at it is, you know, I guess those 10 are exempt because they're considered, you know, community banned or, you know, for the community or, but, you know, the way I look at all these banners is they're all the community's banners, you know, so it's, you know, I'm not sure, I just like to look at the future, sometime in the future, that how we look at putting in these banners, because it's for the benefit of the whole community, even if it is for a specific event, I think, so.
And I think that's a fair statement that it came up when we were doing grant and aid and fee waivers on how we handle fee waivers. Although it is still a cost, it's different than a check that you write out, and one exempting one and not the other is a question, so it would be prudent for us to look at it.
Good. Thank you, Councillor Holmes. Anybody else? Okay. We moved and seconded. All in favor? I get lost here. None opposed. Motion carries. Thank you. Okay, where are we now?
We're on 12.5.
12.5.
Get back to your place.
I'm looking at two places here. Okay, this is license of occupation, Orchard on Dunn Street.
Okay, I think we'll have Mr. Deniger speak to this one.
Good evening. This is in regards to what's been an informal agreement for many, many years with an orchardist. And like many things, we're trying to formalize it and do it right. So this person has requested that we work with them to continue the relationship that's been ongoing for years, with no real functional change, just to make it legal. And we'd like to keep it at market rate. And looking at the work that's been done there over the years, he's been taking very good care of the property, almost for the district. He benefits from harvesting the fruit from there. The district benefits from not having to maintain that property or those trees, or alternately having to remove the trees and beautify the area. So it's sort of a win-win.
Councillor Carlson?
Are there other district properties that are dealt with in the same way with fruit trees on them, or is this it?
No, these two properties are the only ones.
Councillor Trainer?
Does he live on the property too?
No, he doesn't.
No?
Councillor Peak?
So we're formalizing an arrangement that we've had on an ad hoc basis previously, and it's going to be done at a fair market value. Is there an opportunity, will this come back, will you review it on a, you know, every 3 years, or how does that come forward?
Yeah, we, like most of our agreements, we do want to review them regularly. So
Is that in the agreement? I just wondered, or what's the policy around it?
the
There's a
agreement
term-
hasn't been created yet,
But it will have a termination clause in it as well, so that we can't do agreements for longer than 5 years without going through process, or we don't do.
I understand that. I just
Right.
wanted to understand it better in relation to
Right.
this.
Yeah, no, I'm just, so the agreement will be, the maximum would be 5, but likely shorter, but we always put termination clauses in our agreements as well.
Thank you, Jeremy.
Okay, would someone like to bring that forward, please? Councillor Carlson?
I'll move that council pass the following resolution, that staff be directed to prepare a license of occupation agreement between the District of Summerland and Mr. Sushil Anand, orchardist, to manage and harvest the fruit trees on the district-owned properties located at 7636 and 7646 Dunn Street, and that the license of occupation agreement be negotiated at fair market value.
Seconder, please. Councillor Carlson. Councillor Holmes, I'm sorry. It's all right. They sit side by side. Any further discussion? I think this is sort of a standard practice approach and formalizing what's been in place. Okay, all in favor? Thank you. Motion carries, none opposed. Okay, we're moving on to 13.1.
So this is the motion that Mayor Waterman brought forward, or a notice of motion that Mayor Waterman brought forward, was to look at the recommendation to provide some additional RV parking. So we've provided a report to this issue, and staff, after reviewing it, has put forward a recommendation that we actually don't further develop the Wharton Street property, but that we further promote the property at Kelly Avenue. And we did speak to the Chamber of Commerce in that regards to determine whether or not their letter, that their letter supporting Mr. Hudgens' suggestion, whether or not they had something opposed to the existing location, and their answer was that no, they didn't. They just were supporting RV parking in general. So as you can see on the slide that Mr. McIntosh put up there, they're fairly close together. The one at 9600 there, or the at 12808 Kelly Avenue is. Oh yeah, that we do actually go with the 9600. That we continue using it. The signage right now is really minimal, but the grounds are ready and would be conducive to having. Yesterday, the other day, when we were going by to the health and safety breakfast, there was a large RV in at that time.
Councillor Barkle and Councillor Trainer.
Would we be able to put a sign on the highway that said free RV parking?
We've already talked about getting that on the on electronics. Again, what we want to encourage is the RV parking for shopping, to get people in. And when we talked to the chamber about it, we recognized that although they're aware that it's there, they don't necessarily promote it as far as easy shopping, go into town, it's easy access, free parking. So yes, definitely on our electronic. Anything else that's on the highway, as you know, we need to go through quite a thorough process.
That's sort of why I asked the question. I wondered if it would be possible with highways, rules, and regs, because something like that might attract a lot of people coming in to look to see what it's about. But I recognize that it's not easy necessarily with highway rules.
But those are the kind of things, although I know the council's not big supporters necessarily of our electronic signage, that's the kind of thing that you can put on there easily and have them with the right, you don't need a lot of words, but it may be enough to have that going.
Councillor Trainer?
Yeah, do we know how much that lot gets used? You said you saw an RV the other day, but in general, do we know how much it gets used?
We don't know, and we don't think it's particularly high right now. We do think that we have a significant issue with the lack of signage.
Okay. I was just going to add that if the tourism center does start to promote it, if we could have maybe a sign along Rosedale that directs people, because a lot of people get lost with our roundabouts, and then also at the lot, a sign that says how to get to Main Street, even though it's obvious to all of us. I think to people from outside the area, it would be really helpful.
We're looking at the signage right now. We've got a program going. We've had some work done by a consultant on our signage. We just haven't been able to take the next steps, but those are all totally in line with the findings.
We've got Councillor Carlson and then Councillor Barkle.
Just a note that at the Kelly Avenue site where it has been an empty graveled area for quite some time. I think that part of this letter and proposal is probably with an intention that we should, tidy it up a little bit and make it usable. So that, and there's some numbers here that are substantial for if we're gonna add gravel and all of that, so I don't think that we need to go that way, but I do think that if it's possible, we should make it, attractive.
And I think if Mr. Johnson might want to add, but we've had that conversation a number of times, and I believe that since some of the other work has been done, we are in the process of getting it cleaned up.
That's correct.
Now, you're talking about 9600, or are you talking
No,
about
Kelly, just
Yeah.
just not using it as recreational parking, but just cleaning it up so that
Yeah.
it doesn't look.
Yeah, it certainly needs that. I have a question about 9600 though, in terms of seems to me that it's not particularly even in that lot. If I'm not mistaken, there's significant areas where, we get large, you can't necessarily see it on that, but towards the entranceway off Brown, it's a pretty rough entranceway. And some of the, large depressions would cause those vehicles to heave and wallow. I think it needs to be looked at in terms of just maybe scraping it so it's a little more level. And maybe we need to, I don't know, the access is probably adequate, but thinking in terms of how the RVs, do we need to direct how they might be arranged on this property? That's another question.
I think we would want
if
to
they're
do.
sort of ad hoc, it doesn't maybe make best use of the property physically.
I think we would want to monitor if it starts to be used greatly, if we do the signage first of all, and then if,
Okay.
Because we don't want to become necessarily an RV overnight accommodation at this point in time, till we did some work with the accommodator, so.
Yeah.
But if it became better used, then we could definitely look at some lineage.
Yeah, okay, thank you. Councillor Barkle.
To answer Councillor Trainer's question on how much use it gets, I drive past there twice a day, and I've always been amazed at how little it's been used in the past, so hopefully it improves.
Councillor Booth, then Councillor Trainer.
Do you have a response
I was
to
just
that?
gonna say, we could put a sign down at the Sandy dump, or the dump in Trout Creek, that points them up, so they could do that and then come up and shop.
No, I mean, that's actually an excellent idea, because that is a place that a number of RVs stop, whether or not using the sandy dump or just to regroup. So that's a very good idea.
Councillor Booth.
I just have a brief comment. I'm glad to see that we're looking at 9600 as opposed to the 12801, being the council liaison to the chamber. The idea, it's a good idea, but I was not comfortable with it being in that Wharton Street area. I much prefer the 9600. That's already reasonably established, so I appreciate that.
Okay. Councillor Peak. Yeah.
I appreciate the staff report, and I certainly don't see investing $40,000 to $60,000 in the Wharton Street properties. But I would like to commend staff on the cleanup that was done with the construction that had happened around the waterworks on the other property. And that makes a big, big difference on that lot now. And I've had a lot of people comment on how much better it does look. I also make note of the fact that the property at 9600, which is our parking lot behind the badminton court, has also been cleaned up substantially this year around the sign. And I noticed that they spent time raking that lot this spring. So they have done quite a bit of cleanup, and it really is noticeable.
Okay, would someone like to bring that forward, please? Councillor Holmes?
I was gonna say something, but
Well,
that's all right, I'll bring it forward. I can keep a motion. Move that staff be directed to increase the advertising and promotion of the availability of RV-friendly parking at 99600 Brown Street to encourage the use of this lot for this purpose, and further that a letter be provided to Mr. Hudson that 12801 Kelly Avenue will not be redesignated for RV parking, giving an availability of alternate parking.
thank you. Seconder, please. Councillor Trainer, thank you. Councillor Peak.
I'm wondering how many of our businesses downtown know that that is RV parking behind the badminton building. I just wonder about.
But that's part of the, that was part of this, is that we'll do a bit of a campaign, we'll talk further to the chamber, we'll get the word out with the increased signage as well.
Okay, that'd be great.
Councillor Holmes.
Just, you know, one thing we've heard a lot on the cultural plan task force, the process from people in the community is an issue with signage throughout the community. Not just people can't find RV park, but people can't find downtown, you know? People don't know how to get between the KVR and downtown, you know, that sort of thing. So that's something, you know, it's going to be, we'll be talking about a lot in the cultural plan, that we need signage. We need to look at our signage throughout the community, you know, so it's not just, this isn't kind of an isolated need, I would say.
Great,
And
thank you.
just a note that we, like I say, we have a consultant report that is just been completed. We did contract one at the end of last year, and he has identified the recommended signage that should be addressed immediately, so that should be starting.
Councillor Peak.
With the report, with the analysis that's being done, then do you have a time frame that'll come forward to council for?
To,
On
well,
the signing?
I'm not sure, so a lot of it.
Consultant look at it?
Mm-hmm. It may, I mean, some of it's just maintenance work of signage, so I'm not sure how much of that would go to, would come to council. From what we're talking here, we'll have to review it, and some of it's just upgrading and updating of
Okay,
signs.
I got a different impression from what you said.
Okay, all in, Councillor Carson.
Just reading through the letter that was sent to us, and I think that we should continue to encourage the enthusiasm and try and see if there's ways to do more and take some of the ideas that have been presented and continue that conversation. Because I think that there's a lot of stuff there, and it's very detailed, but there's ways to make sure that we don't just only put up one sign and then nothing ever happens again, you know, follow through after a while and see if we need to up the ante a little bit.
Okay, thank you. All in favor? Thank you. Opposed? None? Motion is carried. Thank you very much. Okay, 14.1.
So Ms. Coates, Director of Finance, will speak to the tax rates. We did discuss them at Committee of the Whole this morning, so she'll just give a brief overview of the proposed bylaws following that conversation this morning.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So, Council, before you, you have an amended schedule to the annual tax rates bylaw that incorporates the changes from this morning, which is a slight shift in business other, where it's reduced slightly, and it's intended to be reflective of the provincial average. The ratio in Summerland historically has been 2.8, and the provincial average of the ratio between business other and residential is just over 2.6. So this move, shift this year, will bring Summerland's ratio to 2.5. So it's a small shift from the business other class to residential. This bylaw before you incorporates the 3% property tax increase that was approved in the annual financial plan bylaw. And the community charter does require that we have a tax rates bylaw adopted prior to May 15th. So following the readings of the bylaw tonight, it's suggested that a special meeting be scheduled for Wednesday morning at 9 a.m. for the adoption of the bylaw.
And whoever, once you finish your discussion and you're looking at bringing a motion forward, that date and time, or the time especially, was just a proposed time, but it can be any time
Before May 15th.
during that day of, but if you need it, if we, you know, originally it was scheduled for 4 o'clock that day in our original schedule way back then, so you can make an amendment on that, or propose that time if you're not available.
Just thinking, yeah, would Councillor Barco, would later in the day suit you better?
Well, I had it scheduled for 4:30 on that
Yeah.
day, yeah.
That's what I have in my daytimer as well.
Yeah, which works better for you?
I could do either, but 4:30 is fine.
That works better for me.
4:30?
Yep.
Yeah.
Is there any chance that a 4 o'clock meeting would work if 4:30 works? It's just, it's difficult, it's an adoption, and it's just difficult. It's at the end of the staff working day, so, I mean, if it's 4:30 is fine, if that's what you need it to be.
I could do 4 o'clock, I don't have it.
Sure, 4 o'clock.
4 o'clock's fine. Yeah. Just
Do you
anyone.
need one more? You'll be available? Available. 4 o'clock.
Okay. Okay, any questions of our CFO? Okay, would someone like to bring the recommendation forward, please?
I'll read it.
Okay, thank you.
Council passed the following resolutions: that 2006 annual tax rate bylaw 2016-001 be introduced and read a first, second time by title only. 2, that the 2006 annual tax rate bylaw 2016-011 be read a third time. And 3, that a special meeting be scheduled for Wednesday, May 11, 2016 at 4 p.m. in the afternoon, the council chamber, for the purpose of adopting the tax rate bylaw.
Thank you very much. Seconder, please. Councillor Trainer, thank you. Further discussion? No. I think just note that to bring that in line with the provincial average and slightly below, where council's attempting to create a better atmosphere to encourage business activity in Summerland. And we felt that the ratio was not as in line with that, so we wanted to make that adjustment. Okay, all in favor? Thank you. And opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much. Okay, on to 14.2. CAO.
We'll turn that over to Laurie Coates.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The bylaw amendment tonight before you for fees and charges is to do with the electric and sewer fees increases that were proposed in the 2016 to 2020 financial plan bylaw. So council is very familiar with these increases. We have electric increases of 2.2%, an annual increase of that amount to cover the wholesale purchase of power increase, but from FortisBC. It's expected to be a 2.9% increase, and our rates need to go up 2.2% to cover that. And we have an additional 2% increase in electricity to fund our district costs. This change in rates is proposed to take effect June 1st. And so the actual percentage increase at that point in time would be 4.2% for electricity. There's a bit of estimation that needs to happen to come up with that percentage when we go, on a June 1st, sorry, not 4.2, but 6.75, I read the wrong line, because we only have 7 months left to bill. So our 5 months of consumption, we have to guess what our last month was for the preparation of this report, and the number may change a little bit in terms of our comparison of budget to actual as we get closer to the end of the year. So the sewer is a different calculation. It is a flat rate, and of course that makes it very easy to calculate what that percentage needs to be for the remainder of the year. And the 15% increase in sewer fees that was approved in the bylaw, the June 1st implementation of that rate means that we need to raise those rates 25.7% for the remainder of the year. So the changes to the fees and charges bylaw, the schedules that are attached reflect all of those changes for sewer and electricity. And if there's any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
And just to reiterate, and it probably came out loud and clear in that presentation, but council's already incorporated those changes in your financial plan bylaw. It's just the way it's done with 2 separate bylaws. This one's coming forward.
Councillor Carlson.
Can we anticipate that for 2017, something like this could be passed earlier to prevent the 26%? It appears like 26%, even though that's not really what it is.
We absolutely, it's really best practices to separate out your utilities from your general budgeting. And in the past, that's not necessarily been done here, but we've had that correspondence. Certainly the finance department would like to see that happen. There's no reason that you can't start your budget, your utilities one, so that on January 1st, you know what your increase is going to be, and then you just incorporate that into your financial
think
plan.
it's,
So, and it also makes budgeting a lot more straightforward because you've already done your water, sewer, and electrical, and then you can just focus on your general budget.
I think people would like to see that,
Yeah.
especially when we offer such big changes.
Good point. Thank you. Any other questions or comments for our CFO? Hearing none, would someone like to bring the motion forward as presented, please? Councillor Booth?
I'd like to bring that motion forward as presented.
Thank you. Seconder, please. Councillor Holmes, thank you. All in favor? Thank you. The motion carries, none opposed. Okay, I would like to have a short break before we go to 14.3.
Good idea.
Good idea? Good idea. On to 14.3, CAO.
Okay, so 14.3 is the water amendment of the water utilities bylaw and the fees and charges for water. As council is aware, we've been doing a great amount of work on this issue. Both the Water Advisory Committee and staff groups have been trying to sort this out and come up with some recommendations that are that will update the water bylaws so that we have an intact bylaw that can't be challenged in the future. We haven't had intact bylaws sometimes in some of these areas. Council has already approved the rate model that was recommended by the Water Advisory, and then through the work of getting to the details is where some of this information that Jeremy is going to go through and talk about. The staff report, we really tried to categorize it and show where the recommended changes are going to be and why. But I think we need to walk through it and see if council has questions and how much of it we can get through and get done tonight. Just a reminder that domestic second water services has had very little attention, as I spoke to at the beginning of this meeting. There is still significant work to be done on that issue. So in this bylaw, we had some correspondence that came earlier today that really revolved a lot about the domestic seconds, and that has not been addressed yet. This is the major thrust of this one is the water that in the past has been called irrigation water, and on the larger properties. So Jeremy will give a brief presentation, but for the most part, I think we're going to open it up for council's questions and clarifications on this.
Mr. Deniger.
Yeah, that was a wonderful introduction. So I'll keep my part really quick. Two big things we're considering here. First one is new categories, billing models, and rates. So I'm thinking, because it's such a large report and a number of topics, we'll tackle that one first, and then we can move on to section B in the report, which is about new connections and changes in arable area. So regarding new categories, billing models, and rates, like our CEO said, we were following a recommendation of the Water Advisory Committee. It relates somewhat to some legislative changes that have occurred in the last couple of decades, granting local government more authority over local water management. In the model that was proposed and supported by council, it was a combination of the previous allocation per area with a tiered rate on top of that to try to encourage responsible water use. As noted in the report, that actually requires a change in how we collect revenue under the law. So we have to go from what's a parcel tax right now, the irrigation service fee, just like domestic and commercial water is covered by.
Which is the shift that's often happening with irrigation water. Irrigation rolls were the way and the standard way of doing irrigation water in the past, but with the changes to the Local Government Act and the Community Charter, this is not the standard way anymore. To put it into your fees and charges and to simplify that is definitely the movement.
Going with the times. Also noted there the change in wording from irrigation to agriculture is to provide clarity and to put the focus on the kind of water use, not the taxable term for it. The new category, when we were looking at shifting from the irrigation assessment role to a service-based service taxation method or fee method, we encountered a number of users on the irrigation role that didn't fit perfectly into what most people consider the irrigation role, which is agricultural use. The existing irrigation role considered non-greenhouse use, greenhouse use, and groundwater use, and that was it. There was no thought of play fields or cemeteries or the difference between agricultural irrigation versus irrigating a large lawn. So we have proposed, staff have proposed a number of categories. This is just a proposal with a number of models to go with them based both on the historical and comparative with a vast number, I have a pile here, of other comparable bylaws from both the Okanagan region and from across the province and other farming areas. So trying to get the best of both Summerland's way of doing things and common ways of doing things.
And through legal counsel on the wording, we did choose a legal counsel that's done quite extensive work with water and water utilities to ensure that her recommendations also incorporated areas that may be questioned.
Rather than go through every single category, we can just start talking about it.
Unless council wanted a walkthrough on, so there's two tables that we prepared. The one table that's existing rate categories and then the one table that's color-coded with the red and the green. Did you want to go through, did you want to have an introduction of the categories and the brief thought of the thinking behind it, or how comfortable are you from reading it?
I think it'd be wise to do that. See how, any other comments?
Yeah, thank you, because there's one there that I don't remember seeing before, but maybe I just didn't read it right.
Okay, anybody else?
I agree. I think that would be good
idea to go
methodology.
through,
So we'll start with the table that's on page 131 then, and then just walk through the individuals and why we've got the categories. And Lori may pipe in at any time. We've been working as a group on this, so just if there's any thoughts, do come in as well.
So noted in the second table there with the color coding, the irrigation category of user is being struck for reasons already mentioned. And in the most straightforward manner, will be replaced with the agricultural category of user. Same allocation, 800 millimeters for the base rate, with an inclining tiered rate above the 800 millimeters. The table for that is the very, very end of the report if you want to see what the rates would be. And this covers, I believe, the majority of users on the irrigation tax roll right now. Is agricultural use, seasonally based, open air farm, or greenhouse. We also modified it slightly to incorporate properties classified as Class 9 in the BCD assessment, farm status. If you're less than 2 acres, we have properties that are between 1 and 2 acres that if they get their Class 9, they're a farm, and it's fair that they have the same place. Properties over 2 acres. Fairly hard to meet that standard.
And one of the things that we put a great deal of time in. I see your bylaws are at the end of the package, but you'll, if you had looked through the proposed bylaws, we put a great deal of time into the definitions of the bylaw. That's one thing in our bylaws that were very mishmash and a lot of contradictory things. So if you read through the definitions now, they're consistent between the fees and charges and the rates or the water utilities bylaw, and tries to encompass any of the situations that you come. So the bylaws, in case you hadn't, start on 331, the two bylaws that we're looking at.
Councillor Barkle?
If you're over 2 acres and you don't, say you've lost your farm status, would you still get the agricultural rate?
The over 2 acre requirement it's not tied to the class now. Over 2 acres, you don't have to.
Okay. I just wanted
It's
to
just about the kind of use that you're
I see. Oh, so if you're sub 2, then it matters. Yeah.
Exactly.
If you're sub 2 and your farm, that's something we haven't talked about. If you're sub 2 and your farm status, designated farm status, you automatically, you get it. But if you're over 2, you get it despite being farm class or not.
Okay, good.
That's the current situation, really, isn't it?
Pretty much. Carry on.
So I think that covers the agricultural one. As we're
Can you,
using
can you
the-
speak up a little bit, please, Jeremy?
This microphone's very low. So that's agricultural, and that is, when we first started this process, what we thought the irrigation role would largely be. So we came across things like cemeteries, parks, and play fields, and thought perhaps it would be good to have flexibility in the bylaw to give those a differential rate that the council chose. So at this point, it's proposed to be the same rate system as agricultural, whether it be a school play field or a cemetery owned by the city, 800 millimeters, and then a tiered rate above that. But that could be adjusted if council's desire.
Councillor Holmes?
I know at some point there was a discussion about having a separate category for schools. Was that, but I guess that was decided that they'd be the same as
Playfield.
parks and
Playfield.
playfields?
We did, in original draft that we did, we actually had at first schools and municipalities, and then it was public sector, and then it flipped back, and then after doing quite a bit of research, it was determined that it best fit in this category.
Thank you.
I'm going to speak as well too. We found that the play fields portion was covered under this new category, previously irrigation, and the use inside the schools in the classroom, the staff level, that falls under institutional, which is covered under the commercial category already.
Institutional, commercial?
Is currently per use. Next one is golf courses. Proposed to be starting this year, same method as agricultural, up to 800 millimeters, and then an inclined tiered rate above that. In comparing a lot of the other bylaws of other jurisdictions, we found that golf courses tend to be treated differently than agricultural. There's a recognition that they are irrigating large swaths of land. A lot of the same rules should apply in terms of keeping their crop green, grass. But it's also recognized in a lot of these other bylaws that it is typically a commercial operation. And to encourage wise water use, most jurisdictions charge them either at a differential rate, not competitive with agricultural, or commercial rates for some of them. Other ones, they have special agreements. It's really all over the map. So in year one, we thought we'll go with the same as agricultural and work with the golf courses here in town to see if there's any ways that they can reduce their water consumption. And then in year 2017 forward, it's proposed in the bylaw, unfortunately I forgot to speak to it because it was changed after the report, to reduce the allocation from 800 millimeters to 600 millimeters, and then to have a non-inclining rate for water use above that. It's sort of a mix between agricultural.
We also talked about the possibility, we know that our Society Golf Course, our nonprofit golf course here, will likely be over 800 this year. We talked about the possibility of council granting a grant in aid to offset that extra fee this year. So a grant in aid out of the water utility, not out of the regular grant in aid, to offset that extra cost because there is no notice to them this year. So that we would grant them or potentially discuss providing funding back to them to cover that cost of the inclining block for 2016, because they haven't been given any warning.
And then beyond that, we'll want them to practice wise water management
That's
as
right.
well.
Council
so that
would-
they're in line with the 800 millimeters?
Well, it's actually, in this particular bylaw, as Jeremy just mentioned, there's actually a recommendation to move them down to 600.
Oh, 600, that's right, yes.
To actually move them down, and that would be totally up to council to determine whether or not you wanted to extend. We had a miscommunication on that one. I had a mind block that we had even recommended the 6. So, but the idea being that we're encouraging good water practice.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Barkwell and Councillor Trainer.
I don't quite see the logic in this reducing the allocation to the golf courses to 600 millimeters if we kind of expect that their consumption would be similar to playfields and orchards and pastures. And it's quite a punitive leap to go from about 5 cents a cubic meter to 20 cents a cubic meter. That's 4 times as much, right at the 600 millimeter level. It seems kind of arbitrary. Has there been any discussion with the golf course about this?
Yeah.
Yes, we have met with the golf course where they're overconsumption, which is the society. We've spoken with them quite in length about the impact on it and what they can do to try to reduce that. The model that's proposed with the reduction in millimeters is in line with other municipalities that have a certain amount of base allocation. Many municipalities we looked at, the majority of them charge it in a manner very similar to commercial with a very high per cubic rate right from the start. There's no allocation whatsoever, but they actually pay a connection fee based on their pipe size, and then some of them pay up to $1 or more per cubic meter.
Council will, so one of our golf courses is not over allocation and is likely not going to be over the 600 either. That's the commercial golf course. The nonprofit society council will always have the opportunity to look in given years or given circumstances to grant a grant in aid from the water utility to them if that was what you chose to do to offset that cost. But it was felt from a staff perspective that from a good water management practice that we should start implementing this.
I think Councillor Trainer was next. Councillor Barkwell.
I think I'm good right now.
Okay, Councillor Barkwell.
The comparison to other communities is difficult because the allocation up and down the valley is different. Your allocation in Suyas is greater than the allocation of water that you would get in Armstrong. And if you look at any at the coast, they probably hardly need any water at all, and it's not a very big part of their budget.
It's not so much the allocation, though, it's the manner in which golf courses are treated compared to agricultural use. And that agricultural use has in these other communities are given a favored rate over a golf course or recreational activity.
The other comment I have on that is if they know that they can just come to council and get a grant and aid to make up that difference, that takes away the incentive to try and be conservers, eh?
Well, council has, they can ask, and the staff recommendation was that they're given notice that for 2016 to put in something that says you're going to pay more when you've done your budgeting to that degree that they may be getting. Council may want to offset that somewhat this year and give them notice with the expectations, and then to give them notice that they won't perhaps be entertaining.
Last year they used nearly 1,000 millimeters, I understand. So it's going to be they got to tighten their belts figuratively speaking, quite a bit to even meet the 800. I don't know how that figures into the discussion, but it's important information, yeah.
I'd like to interject
Yeah.
on the water management aspect of it. Yes, it's interesting that they are in excess of the 800. I think that's something that the golf course should be able to work on in a water management aspect. I think, though, to move in to looking forward, thinking in terms of 217 to adjusting it to 600, personally, I would rather see it stay at 800 and then have a good discussion with the golf course about potential water management techniques that may allow them to certainly meet the 800, and then to be looking at carefully as to whether it may be possible for them to get to 600 or not. And I think, I'm well aware of a lot of irrigation management techniques that they may or may not be using at this time. I know they have a very competent staff that is trying to do a good job out there, and it is a significant driver in our local economy. So I think rather than having something that looks a little draconian in my mind, be better off to establish the 800 now and look at the grant and aid aspect if they exceed it this year, because it is a late aspect in terms of their budgeting. But to sort of look down the road and say it needs to be 600, I think that's excessive, and I think perhaps it may be able to be reached. But I think that's should be a discussion that you take with the golf course to determine whether they can institute techniques and technology to allow them to get down there. I think it's premature and is suggesting that they will be able to make that regardless of any discussion. And I think you need to be able to set it at the 800. I have no argument about that. But I think perhaps it's useful to have given our relationship is good at this point and they're very willing to consult and participate with us, that we need to set it at the 800 and then have a discussion with them as to whether they may be able to move it down to 600 or not. I think it's entirely reasonable to look at it that way. Councillor Traynor.
Did you mention that you already had discussions with them about this? Did you mention the 600 at all?
We didn't speak to them about the 600.
Oh, okay.
Precisely.
Okay, just about the 800. Okay. Okay.
And they have worked very closely with the district and the water utility on all aspects of their water use habits. The way that they avoid high flow times by using their ponds. So we expect to continue working
Well,
with them.
yeah, and those ponds were put in place in particular to allow for better water management and to work with the district. Councillor Carlson.
Do you know off the top how many agricultural water users use more than 800 millimeters of their allotted on the roll last year, for example? Is it a dozen? Is it 20? Is it 50?
With the same type of irrigation.
I'm with any type of irrigation. I'm just meaning in general numbers based on what we know and all of the information that we have, because these meters have been in place for so long. Are there numerous producers out there who are going to be blindsided by this because they haven't been working as closely with the district as perhaps the golf course has or other groups?
In terms of open land farming, like greenhouses or other categories, there's only really a handful of numbers on that. There's only a handful, and we have been reaching out.
Absolutely.
Councillor Barclay.
I think Don Darling gave a presentation last year, was it? That there was maybe 16 that were over the 800. That's somewhere in my, does that sound reasonable?
I think it's
Probably less than
it's
that.
less than 16.
Yeah, because trade estate was looked at as an irrigation role, which meant all these categories of
Yeah.
users that aren't necessarily seasonal irrigation water users, but farming.
There's another thing to throw out here, is that we could do our mock billing like we did for the domestic for a year with, bright alerts that you're approaching your limit, such, and if you're not comfortable with hitting people right away, and it's not, I don't know how many people looked at their domestic bills prior to the actual bill, their mock bills, but it's an idea. I'd like to know what council thinks.
Well, you did pass a resolution to implement the rate model with the inclining block for this year, so.
We
Oh,
did
sorry.
provide mock billing
Yes, I thought
information
so.
statements
Yeah.
for all of last year. So those farmers have had 1 year of information coming to them about what their consumption is.
What their
Just-
consumption is, but was it related to a price?
No, because we didn't have a rate model.
Yeah.
But we certainly provided information about, if you were over 800 millimeters and how much you were over.
Councillor Carlson?
Just throw this one out there. So at the end of 2015, irrigation users were sent these mock, it wasn't a bill, it was information on how much water they used. And just on that note, it's almost impossible to read your own meter because of the way that they're set up. So this is going to be an issue we probably should be looking at. How do we implement that? But my suggestion or my thought on this would be that perhaps because we've already sent out these 2015 summaries, April, May, June, July, August, September, all of the use per everything on the roll, instead of doing a year of mock billing in 2016, using that information, is there a way to now say, well, this is what the bylaw we are proposing with the rates we are proposing is going to do based, this is what it would have done to your 2015 bill. So retroactively looking at it, sending that out, we've already got these all made up. All we would have to do, I would assume, is add the rate information to it so that instead of passing a bylaw like this, throwing it out into the world and sending everybody a bill in October that says this is how much you owe us, we have put this forward. We can face the fire. I don't want 500 angry farmers when they see that we've already increased their acreage, their per acre fee by $20 per acre this year. That's $100 for a 5-acre farmer that may not be making very much money. I mean, it could be the difference between farm status and not for some of these people. So I think that it's worth considering if it's an option to show them based on 2015 with what we're proposing for 2016. And then if it all just goes absolutely glafooey, we will know that it isn't going to work.
I'm not sure we can do that. Perhaps the CAO can
I'm
give us some advice.
just getting Tricia to look at our resolution that we passed. I mean, probably this conversation should have happened when we passed the resolution to implement it this year. That would have been the time to have it. If the resolution is passed and actually states that to implement this year, then you would have to do a reconsideration because you've already given the direction to do that.
Would you like me to read the resolution? Okay, so it was moved and seconded that council supports the Water Advisory Committee's recommendation that the irrigation rate structure for irrigation water include the following: a base allocation of 800 millimeters of water per season, a per acre fee, a notification process to warn an irrigator when they get close to their base allocation, a notification process to both owner and operator if the base allocation is reached, establish an inclined block fee structure for over-allocation consumption. Carried.
Right, so it was in the report that it was for this year, but you didn't actually incorporate it into the resolution. I mean, the issue comes in that if it was enough to affect budgeting. I mean, again, we've been operating under the assumption that this is the model that's going to be in place, but.
Well, just listening to the resolution, I'm wondering, Councillor Carlson, whether, the notification process that was mentioned in the resolution will assist farmers and irrigators to make the adjustments. I think probably we're okay, and I would like to be able to, I don't want to have to go back and redo things when we've already got something on the books. I feel that the notification part of this resolution will assist your concern. Go ahead.
Just on top of that, though, I don't think that this, like, if we pass a water bylaw, we have to pass something, and we have agreed to a 15% increase in our financial plan, which puts us at $166 per acre. That is the number we've been working with. I can only assume that we're not working with the assumption that all of these people who are using this water are going to be paying us copious amounts of extra money. And so it doesn't, like, we're already working with the numbers. I think that when it comes to the tiered structure, there's not a lot of people that are gonna be paying it. However, they need to know before what that is so that they're able to not be, like I said, blindsided by something like that.
CFO.
So from the 2015 consumption information, we certainly can provide that calculation of what that bill would cost under this new rate model. There are 83 farms, properties, that were over their 800 millimeters in 2015. So out of 460, 83 were over. But we do know that we also have some meters that weren't working. So if those repaired meters now showed increased consumption, that number could be higher. But it's at least, maybe it's 100.
So
We
I
don't
think
know for
that's
sure.
really
It's not a huge number of people that we can't do the calculation and send it out to them. We certainly could do that. The financial plan does not include any of the inclining block revenues in it, right? We had that discussion at the time that any money that would come from that would go towards our reserves because we really don't know. Our hope is that we don't receive 1 penny in inclining block money because everyone will change their water use practices and we don't get any money.
Councillor, well, you want to continue?
Just there to a certain point where you can change them to, and then a certain point that you can't change them beyond. And if there's 100 people out of 400, or 100 properties out of 400, maybe in a year like last year and perhaps this year, it will be a big challenge. And so I think that we need to be aware of that, and we can't start gouging people for money for water if it's a drought year.
Councillor Barkle and Councillor Trainer.
I just wasn't sure what your suggestion, was your suggestion to send them a mock bill based on last year's consumption and go ahead with our billing this year?
If we don't get a really big backlash, I think that part of this is the messaging and is the education and telling people what we're doing and not having 3 readings of a single bylaw with all these brand new numbers that you and I only looked at this weekend, that all of us saw for the first time, because people want to know. We asked for their input, and now we have a solution, and now we're going to put it forward without saying, hey, this is what we're putting out there. And it may become controversial, and maybe that's what we need, because otherwise people don't pay attention. I want people to pay attention to this.
I think that we expected it to be controversial, and that was one of when the Water Committee brought it forward, that was one of the things that staff was trying to talk about, was that this is a significant change. And that's one of my concerns right now, is where we're going right now, is that we had that discussion. So it's whether or not we're going to back up now. And because we did bring it up. We did bring up that hay farmers, for example, that they are more likely to be penalized than another farmer, and that we hadn't had very much conversation. So I don't think it's so much that it's been hidden that the numbers haven't been here. That was how we chose to proceed at that time, that there was going to be significant impact on some people.
Just before we go to Councillor Trainer, to our CFO, a minute ago you were describing how you may have been able to meet Councillor Carlson's concern in terms of alerting those people that were over. How were you proposing to do that again, please? Was it just a notification?
It would be a
that
notification, yeah.
We're moving ahead with this?
That's right. So, we have all of the consumption information. It's not an onerous process to calculate what the cost would be for anyone who is over 800 millimeters and send them a notice.
Okay. I think, personally, I would like to see that approach taken on a basis of information to those people and proceed with what we've already moved ahead on. And that way, the work will continue in terms of keeping our communication with the users at a high level. And there's no way I want to move in a direction that we ignore the users or shortchange them on information or shortchange them on warnings of use, etc. So I think we can move ahead, but I'm, taking the assurance that staff will be able to proceed with the adequate communication to ensure people aren't caught off guard, etc. So I think we've got everything in place to do that. Staff has been doing a tremendous job and it's been a huge task, and I don't want to provide any hitches at this point, but I do think we can do our very best in terms of communication to ensure that there's no difficulty by users. Councillor Traynor, then Councillor Barkwell.
I was just thinking, everybody knows that changes were coming this year in some kind of fashion, so it's not going to totally come out of left field. I think Councillor Carlson's idea of sending out a 4-year information with these new rates, here's what you would have paid in 2015, will be really helpful this season as they go through, because they'll have that document, and as they're watering throughout the season, they can refer to that and be aware of that. And then the third point is, how often do they get, do they just get a warning, like you're getting close to 800, or is there a way for them to find out where they're at throughout the season?
Every month, information statements are sent. We're working on the first one. So we read meters April 28th. That's the first time they've been read since irrigation water was turned on. And so now we're just working on getting that format right and getting that information statement out for the first one. So our intent is that, within about 5 working days of every month, we're going to have those information statements out. We're working on a report for anyone who's within 80% of the 800 and that will trigger us to take a further action and send them another kind of letter. We have to develop that yet, what that's going to look like. So, we're thinking that that gives them enough time to be aware and realize that there's a significant dollar impact coming if they continue to
And then if they
use
had
the
an
water.
issue, they could perhaps come and talk to us about it, or, find ways that they could reduce, or if they can't,
I would
I think
suggest
so.
to council to consider is that, if we get to July and it is, a year where it looks like 90% of our users are going to be over 800, that we need to take a look at that then and change that. So we don't have a drought year making every single account be over, right? Like,
And there's another aspect that maybe Jeremy wants to bring up now.
I was going to speak to this in part B when I talked about arable area. I'm not going to jump to it right now because it may affect your thinking on it. There may be a large number of properties that are going way over 800 millimeters because what we have on record for the arable area is much less than they actually have. Without this tiered rate incentive to actually report the correct amount of arable area, if they've only been paying for, say, 2 acres, and they actually have 4 acres of arable area, it's costing them less, and there's no penalty for it. Now, with the tiered rate on top of that, they have reason to report actual arable area, which would allocate them far more water. So they may not actually be overusing water. And so our plan is this year to do a thorough review of all properties currently on irrigation roll, make sure that the arable area is correct, so they get allocated 800 millimeters for their entire area.
Okay, so,
Suspect there's lots of this.
okay, sorry, see you.
Oh, and just along with that, I think Councillor Traynor alluded to it. There's not too many properties that we can't be looking at these, and if there's anybody that's really, there's something really wrong, or there's, we can be dealing, I mean, the idea is to bring this into a conforming and consistent manner, but there's ways of working with people to make sure that this is happening. So if we get the basic, where the model's going, and we're monitoring it if we have clarity on where we want to get to, doesn't mean that we can't work with individuals and be reviewing them and being very careful on how we handle this. So I think that it's understood by everybody that there's going to be some blips along the way, and some that are going to take a little bit more consideration than others.
Councillor Barkle, then I have a quick question before I forget what it's going to be. Go ahead.
I was just actually going to say all the same things that Councillor Traynor said. In particular, those boxes have been sitting there for 8 years, and people know it's coming. I was anxious to put forward to get this going forward, but also wanted to be cautious, and after hearing all the pros and cons and everything, I'm pretty happy.
Okay, my question regarding the idea of somebody may have been using more water because they're actually watering more acreage. Does that mean that the acreage that they thought they had, or the 2 acres, for example, was being watered, would they require then an increase in their allocation? And would that be forthcoming?
The allocation would match their actual arable area.
Okay, but what if it was deduced that 2 acres or 5 acres that they were watering over and above the amount of water that, you know, they might have been using just on the 2 acres, that they were using more water, but they weren't actually allocated that amount of water for the land? So would they be able to apply for more water to increase their amount of water that they would receive for their arable acreage?
Yes, and we'll be covering that in section B.
Okay.
Section called arable
Okay,
area.
sorry to move ahead. It's just that hit me while we were talking. Okay. Councillor Boot, and then we'll let Jeremy go ahead with his.
Yeah, I think Councillor Holmes as
Oh,
well.
Councillor Holmes?
Just kind of before we get on to Section B from Section A, sorry, Jeremy. Lori brought up something that I've been wondering about, and we've been talking about it kind of off and on, and that is how or when do we adjust the allocation recognizing climate change, whether it's a drought sequence for 3 years or what? I mean, we just heard from your report, Mr. Mayor, that the snow pillow is low. We all know that it was a pretty dry year last year. So how do we incorporate that, or do we? How does that, because we know it probably is going to play in at some point, how do we do that?
So that's part of the reason that we have a water advisory committee, and we're actually having a meeting this week where we're re-looking at how the water advisory committee operates and the things that they can weigh in on, and part of that is this kind of thing. That, along with the information we get from OBWB and the other expert sources around us. So I think those all have to be factor in, and it's an ongoing conversation. This is a starting place, but this is an ongoing conversation.
I think that's a very good point, and I think, as the CEO has mentioned, that you know, the Water Advisory Committee will be looking at it, but the science of the last 5 years or more has indicated that climate change will have an impact on evapotranspiration numbers as much as 30% within another, say, 50 years or something.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I think it's very critical that we really know where we're at now, and if we can proceed with the sorts of things that have been suggested, then we'll have a very good handle on the properties, the acreage, the amount of water we're using, et cetera, and that's the kind of base point that you need to be at in order to be able to move forward and deal with things like climate change. Councillor Carlson?
No, Councillor Holmes.
Oh, Holmes, you had your hand up there too. Councillor Holmes? Sorry.
Okay, I've been listening to this conversation, and I have to admit, quite a few red flags have come up for me. I think I know we've had this discussion, but to think that people won't be caught off guard by it, I think that's quite naive. I think a lot of people will be caught off guard, and even if they do get a mock bill of what they would have paid last year with the same system, I think it might be too late for many people to make any changes that they might want to make. The idea of fixing blips along the way doesn't sit very well with me. I think that's kind of putting in a big IT system and fixing the bugs later. The one thing that really worked well with the residential meters when they were put in is that people got mock bills for a year before. before it went live. And that really made people understand what was coming down the pipe, and they could see it. It was very clear. Everybody knew. There was no surprises when it was made. And so I'd like to ask if if we haven't budgeted for the tiered part, then what's the hurry? Why can't we send mock bills out for a year and then just do it next year?
Just a couple of things on that. So the blips, when I said it, the fact of the matter is we're going to have blips because we have an irrigation roll that has a lot of issues with it. So no matter which way we do it, we are going to, and I use the word blips, and what I mean is the reality is we're trying to straighten out something that's in disarray here. And so what my messaging was trying to be, there's going to be individuals that we're going to have to work with in the same way that you had to with domestic. There was many situations that weren't straightforward with the domestic when you went on to domestic rates. And that's important to remember whether or not we do it this year or next year. As far as council making the decision not to go this year, there's nothing stopping council from doing that. If, like I say, in a perfect world, we would have had that conversation a month and a half, 6 weeks ago when we passed this resolution to implement this model now, because that's what we've, from a staff perspective, we have been really working extremely hard to try to get this, extremely hard, because we were under the direction from council to get this implemented this year. So, but the council changes their mind sometimes, and further review, further thought, and that's perfectly okay if that's if that's the direction that we end up going, and ultimately you'll vote on that. So, but that was what the rush was, that it was directed to get this in place and get it in place for June 1st or for right away. So, yeah. So,
Councillor Carlson, and then I want Jeremy to move ahead if we can.
When I look at this, it seems to me like the second part of this conversation, the part about how many acres are being irrigated and what's really out there and what are people actually farming, is really important to figure out and to get right, and might be more important to figure out and get right than it is to try and build people before we have that determined. And I don't know how long getting that information together and making sure that, that property is really only 5 acres. I don't know how long that takes, but I think that it should be coming before we decide how many dollars we're going to be taking and how many millimeters they're going to be allocated. It's all part of, and I don't mean, like, the work that's been done in here and all of the document and the numbers, I think that they might work, but I'm not comfortable throwing it out there at people until we have that second step done and we tell people what we're expecting them to give us.
Councillor Barkle and Councillor Peak.
I hear Councillor Holmes' concerns, and I had them at the start of this discussion, but I think that, there's not so many problem locations that if we're willing to put some extra resources into it, maybe use some of that extra money that we might get from people going over the limit to deal with this now, to deal with these people individually, because it's going to take more staff time. There's no two ways about it, and sooner or later it's going to have to be done. And the only way that's going to really get their attention and identify these issues, such as Councillor Carson just brought up, is when the real dollars and cents are on the line. So I think we're at that point, and it's just going to have to take some effort. Councillor Peak.
Yeah, I agree with Councillor Traynor and Councillor Barkwell. I think that we should be working at pace, that we can certainly do the letter that both Councillor Carlson and our treasurer has spoken about, giving what those costs would be for 2015 based on usage as a possible projection coming. And with the assurances, as our staff have said, that they'll be doing those notices on the monthly basis and working with each of the properties en route. I think the time is to implement it now.
I have one question regarding my earlier comment about, or in others, I think, about the golf course situation of moving to 600. I can see it sitting at the 800. does there have to be a modification in what we're passing tonight to make sure that, you know, that doesn't happen prior to any discussion?
If once we determine if if someone brings a motion forward to pass the first 3 readings of the bylaw, changes could be made if it was 600,
Yeah.
from 800 to 600, or
Okay.
minor ones like that. We did have the conversation earlier that in one of the rates for domestic second didn't include the 15%. If council did want to include the 15% for that, we did bring an updated bylaw to show what it would look like.
Okay. The other issue, since you mentioned the number, on the 15% or 14% from the increase of 147 to 166, is it? Correct?
144.89.
Okay, 144, okay. That's why my math didn't work out when I was checking it earlier. So the 15% is in line with what we're suggesting about water increases generally?
15% is the amount that council approved for the increase in the 2016 to 2020
That's what I was
financial
asking,
plan.
yeah. Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Councillor Carlson.
So why wouldn't, in the original document that was presented, why wasn't that included in the second services if all water was under 15% increase? Was it forgotten, or was it assumed that it was different?
It was not forgotten. It was, the staff made because those rates have always just been a flat fee, it was thought that the intention was that we were going to be working on them, and they hadn't been reviewed by the advisory committee or by staff yet, so that it was in council's intention just to leave it. They're not market rates as such anyway, but it's certain. But as soon as it was brought to our attention that some councillors questioned why, it makes sense. It just wasn't on the radar screen.
But those rates originally they're tied to the agricultural acreage rate, correct? What it used to be.
Yes, that's correct. So when the bylaw was being prepared and the rate schedule was being updated, I knew that would be the next thing that we were going to do, was look at that category and bring it forward, and it would most likely be changing in some fashion. So
Okay.
that was me leaving it. I'm certainly willing to have it changed if that would.
Well, we do have the updated,
Yep.
just a page insert here if you did want to incorporate that 15%.
Yeah, if council
we have
wants
that
to
here.
do it that way, and we still do need to look at that whole issue. Yeah.
So there may be further amendments coming.
Absolutely.
But, or proposed amendments coming,
Proposed
but we could
amendments.
certainly do the 15% to stay consistent.
Okay, would you like to move to the next section, Jeremy, please?
Sure. On to the letter G, greenhouse water. This was one of the subcategories of the irrigation role. So we looked at that, and the model of having a base 800 millimeters and charging above didn't fit perfectly with greenhouses, as we realized they are probably farming more months out of the year than open land. And they were paying a higher per acre rate, which we assumed was because of that higher water use. So we just did some basic math and increased their threshold to 1,727 millimeters based on the old model. And then above that basic allocation per acre, we're proposing that they pay a non-inclining block rate of 5 cents per cubic meter, which is the same rate that they're paying for those first 1,700 cubic meters. So trying to be fair, trying to recognize the old system that they were under, while being fair for their use over, because it's really hard to tell how many months of the year they're going to be using it and what intensity they might be growing. There's greenhouses that stack things, and so basing it purely on acreage is a little tough sometimes. So.
Yeah, because it's entirely up to the greenhouse operator whether he operates 12 months or 10 months, depending on the cropping that he's doing. And the
Exactly.
intensity, as you say. Okay, carry on.
Next one.
Question?
Oh, sorry.
Just a quick question on the greenhouse rate. When you were determining the millimeters with the math that you were doing, did you look at some of the billing or the consumption of the local greenhouses and what they might be using in a year like last year and the year before?
Yeah, those numbers were crunched. I think Lori was working on some of them today. I'm not sure if she got to it. There were a few greenhouses that had incredibly high consumption, and that's why we wanted to give a large first block of allocation of 1,700 millimeters, and then to bill them at that same rate. So if they need 2,000 millimeters per year because of whatever operation they're in, they're still paying the very minimal cost that we could possibly justify under this model, which is just, it's like the flat fee of a commercial rate, very much, in that it's a non-inclining basic rate. They pay for what they use, and it works out to the same as what they were paying for what they were allocated before. So really, it's no change. It's just they're paying fairly for an overage.
And when it comes to the second part of this, when we talk about the acreage and the amount of land that they're farming, will a similar thing be undertaken with mapping and making sure that they're paying for areas that they're farming and not more or less? They'll be included in that?
I would imagine that everyone who's being moved from the irrigation role into this new set of categories will be notified about the arable area review.
Thanks.
Yeah, I think greenhouses are a particularly high, intensity operation. You can sort of look at the acreage under glass and say, okay, they got this many acres, but in reality, if their plants were spaced accordingly, how many acres would they tie up? And I think it's very difficult to do. They are in a special situation. Okay, want to carry on? We're probably going to have to entertain a motion to extend the meeting unless we are going to continue, unless we're going to finish soon. So we'll go for
Well,
another-
5 to 10, you
Yeah,
can
about-
determine where you
okay,
are.
at 5 to 10, we'll make our minds up whether we're moving further into the evening or not. We have to do it by resolution.
Yeah.
So,
So we're moving, we're pretty close to moving
Yeah.
to section B anyway.
Yeah,
so.
only two categories left. The next one is groundwater. Pretty straightforward. It's for any properties adjacent to Garnet Lake that are collecting water from the ground. The reasoning for this is that the increase in water level caused by the infrastructure for the lake, the reservoir, is replenishing the aquifer that they're drawing the water from. So it's because of the district's actions that they have water in the ground. So it's a basic rate based on their acreage. for that.
It's an existing category, it's just reclassified how it sits.
Yeah. There's only one property this affects at this time. And other water, as discussed in the previous meeting, this is sort of a placeholder category to make it apparent to any large businesses or operations that may be interested in coming to Summerland that might have high water use, but as well might have a huge positive impact on the economy or some such thing that council may want to consider giving a differential rate. At this time, it's being proposed as exactly the same as the commercial rate, just simply as a placeholder in the bylaw. But we wanted to put it in there so that businesses looking at this would see that council's open to that consideration.
Makes sense.
okay.
Section B,
Section
Jeremy.
B.
Section B, new connections and increased arable area. So for some time, requests for new connections have been given to the district, but without any clear mandate, these connections haven't been entertained. As well, we haven't consolidated all the information about the supply capabilities of our system. So we're proposing now that it be entertained. Anyone wants to do a new connection, or if someone wants to increase their arable area, we have a system in the bylaw to allow that.
The most important thing to note there is that the two principles that are in the report, because that's changed, it's a lot more clear in the current legislation. If you have enough water, you shouldn't be denying somebody to come on to the system. If you will prejudice the users, the current users, then you should not be bringing somebody onto the system. So if you have the water, then you will be prejudiced if you don't let them on. But if you are risking water for others, then that's when you can have the right. So that is important distinction to note.
Yeah, thank you for pointing that out. So
Councillor
that's not,
Barkle? Just, Councillor Barkle?
So the people that maybe being watering 5 acres and only paying for 2 acres and didn't really, are they going to be charged this additional fee to, as we get things straightened out, because they come down and say, oh, I've got 5 acres and
From my understanding, the allocation are from the reports where we know how much water we're using. So it's just a matter of billing and reporting that they've been paying an incorrect amount and our records are showing an incorrect amount of arable area. This is for actual increases if I'm turning unarable land into arable land.
all these adjustments and such will be sort of grandfathered and won't be, have to pay that.
Not new connections, they won't be paying.
No, so it's only for new connections.
New connections are new arable land,
Mhm.
not just a miscalculation or misrecord
Right.
of arable
Yeah.
land, yeah.
Not just adjustments to
Yeah,
make,
it
to
might be
capture it.
Might be an example, say somebody's got 30 acres and they cleared 10, and they want to water the next 20, then there would be an additional acreage that they would be applying for.
That's correct.
Right? Yeah. Okay.
So the report goes into some depth about that. The next section I'll go is about the arable area review. We've touched on that, which is that to ensure that everyone is being charged fairly for the amount of water that they should actually be allocated, we do intend to do a review of all of these properties. And to not impact them hugely in the first year without much warning, we're proposing that the increase be sort of tiered, so that if your increase in actual area is 20% or less, it'll just take effect this year.
Question, if I might.
Oh, sorry.
In a general way, do we have the capacity to do that review in-house, or will we have to have somebody in to do that?
I'm looking at Chris.
Well, we will either be doing it in-house or casual, we have extra funds for contracting workers when we have, so we haven't really assessed the whole situation yet, but we do have funds to complement our staff.
Thank you.
So if their arable area is found to be greater than 20% change or increase, they have the option to phase it in up to 5 years at 20% per year until their on-record arable area is actually correct and matches reality. It depends on how much water they use, what kind of farming they do, how much water they're using for that kind of farming, whether it be hay or grapes, may determine whether or not they want to tier that. It might be to their advantage to simply pay for greater area and be allocated more water rather than to pay the overages. So we want to give people that flexibility for the change. And of course, if you have less arable area than is on record, then it will simply decrease in 2016, because they should be using their water responsibly. If they're watering for 10 acres and only really have 2. And I think that's
The overview.
it. That's the overview.
Questions? Questions, please? Okay.
So if any counselors was interested in bringing a motion forward, the motion that's in the staff report for first, second reading and third reading of the 2 bylaws, the water utilities bylaw and the fees and charges bylaw, the one change that we did talk about, or the 2 changes that we did talk about, was to also increase the domestic second fees by 15% and to change the number of 600 for the golf course to 800, back to 800. So those are the 2. Trish, do you have that sheet with the 15%?
Jeremy does.
Jeremy does.
Yep.
So that, just the one page of your bylaw would be with the highlighted yellow. That would incorporate 15% increase on the, do you have the next one for me? Oh, it does not number the same number, darn.
Thank you very much, Jeremy, appreciate it.
So that would be on page 337 of your agenda. That replaces replaces that page in 14.3 in the fees and charges. That gives the 15% on those, and then the other change would be in the second year for golf course would be back to 800 instead of 600. So if you move the staff recommendation, that would be with those two changes.
Okay. Just before Councillor Peak, the rates that are here for the acreage is mentioned in the breakdown.
That's the domestic seconds.
Yes, domestic seconds. The rationale for these,
It's just, before, we just had the same as what they are now. The rates that are in your package are just the same as they are now. This is just adding 15% to them
Okay.
because and that's just was brought forward that the staff hadn't incorporated 15% on those like we had with all the other rates. So that's just saying, everything else went up 15%, they should too.
and there's no attempt to rationalize.
That's
the
not the
acreage
work, that's not the work, the work hasn't been done on domestic seconds yet, and it still will be done immediately following adoption of all of this.
Okay, that's fine, I just wanted to clarify.
Yeah,
my
yeah,
own mind.
yeah,
So,
no, it's fair enough, because it's coming
Councillor
late.
Barkwell?
I hesitate to bring this up, but I have emailed earlier, on this page that we were just handed, where it says, for agricultural water, the parcel size for calculating domestic water volume shall be the parcel size minus the arable area. I can't make sense of that sentence.
So the meaning of that is to ensure that the allocation for domestic water, because there is a watering allocation that happens, so 25 cubic meters in the non-watering months, and then an allocation for domestic water based on the lot size. So a farm property could have a house, would most have a house on them, or a lot have a house on them, and the area around the house is charged on the domestic water billing scheme, and it's just a mechanism to, because it's one property, for us to say anything that's arable and getting in on the agricultural rate will reduce the size of the property when we do our calculation for the domestic rates.
So, still, it doesn't really, I mean, I understand what you've done, but you've taken off the house, like our property's 10 acres, you took off a quarter acre, or you gave us a quarter acre, and that's what the domestic rate was charged at. But this doesn't really say that. Parcel size for calculating domestic water volume shall be the parcel size minus the arable area. But it says that's for agricultural water. For agricultural water, the parcel size for calculating domestic water shall be the parcel size. So it's not, it doesn't work.
I need to find it in the bylaw. Just a
And
second.
it's hard to think about here and now, so let's just leave it, and maybe you can look at it later in the.
If there's some housekeeping work to be done to improve language, then we can always do housekeeping too, so we'll look at that one.
So is that-
It's a little bit like reading the Income Tax Act.
Yeah.
Well, you know all about that.
Okay, was there another question? Councillor Peak?
I'm in agreement with the changes, the two changes to the presentation of the bylaw.
Okay, thank you.
Did you want to bring that
I
forward?
can bring it forward, and I don't necessarily have to read it, but
No.
I'll bring it forward with the additional two opportunities as well.
Have a seconder, please. Councillor Barkwell, thank you. Okay, any further discussion? Councillor Carlson?
So I'm just wondering if there's some final discussion on making sure that, especially those 83 users, but hopefully all 400 or so that are part of the irrigation roll at the current time, are educated about what's been discussed by the water committee, and educated about how much water they've been using, told what the increase of 15% is and what the proposed tier structure, or what the tier structure is. And then also information on how this is going to be implemented, how the arable acreage changes may affect them, or what the process is for making that happen. To me, there's a lot of information that is going to take a lot of effort to get out to people, and I'd like to know how that's going to happen.
So if council passes this, if we do the first 3 readings today and then adopt it, then what we can do is work on putting packages together. Again, it's not such a large number that we can't, in the same way that we're making a great attempt with the Garnet Valley and some of the letters that Public Works is putting out and the packages that we're putting out, and putting a lot of thought into what's going out to them. With this concern that's been shared today, we can certainly focus on that and make sure that it's more than just a notice that goes out in the mail, that we can do more, and whether or not we have to do the same thing as that we did during the HST conversion, where we have to contract somebody in for a couple of days to make sure that there's full packages going out, we can do that.
I think I'd like to assure Councillor Carlson that, with my, hesitate to say how many years, but 35 years of extension work in agriculture, I'm well aware of the need that you're expressing around education. And I think, I'm pretty sure council staff has got the message that, we want to make sure we're doing a very good job of communicating. And I think this council from the outset has said that that's part of their mandate, is to make sure that we're having good consultations, discussing things, making sure everybody has the information, and that we're very, very willing to discuss with individuals where there may be difficulties. And I think that's sort of the message behind this whole council. So I feel that we as a council have made these assurances to the public, and I think staff is taking that to heart and is willing and are very capable of putting that message out and making sure that we're doing as good a job as we can.
Can I also suggest that this information gets out to ag organizations that work within Summerland, and the extension folks and the field service, etc., because it will be very important.
Yep. No, I agree.
Because they know how to communicate that.
Okay, move forward. Councillor Barkle?
Just one quick, I might have blinked that Councillor Peake's motion to revise the 2017 from 600 to 800 also included increasing it to 37 cents?
Yes.
Yeah.
Should we pass a motion to move later?
No, we're just about, we're pretty damn close. Okay, we've got a mover and a seconder. Okay, all in favor? Motion is carried. Opposed, please? 2 opposed. Motion is carried. Thank you. Corporate officer, we have 14.3, is it?
14.
Now you should do a resolution. Now you should do a resolution.
Okay, yeah. Okay, I'd ask for a resolution to extend our meeting period, please.
A motion.
Councillor Booth, thank you. Councillor Holmes, all in favor? Thank you very much. Okay, we're moving on to the
Late item?
The late item,
We'll
please.
turn that over to Mr. McIntosh. I think you have the actual late item in front of you, but Mr. McIntosh can just briefly introduce it.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is to do with an amendment to the RPN zone, which is the former RCMP property at 8709 Jubilee Road. When the RPN zone was originally created, we put in an extra regulation to limit density, just as a precaution because the zone was brand new and it was relatively high density for a single-family zone. And there was a limit placed on the density at 28 units per hectare. On that particular site, which is 1.2 acres, it would limit the numbers of units to 14. And when we did the original zoning, we were anticipating 1,000 square foot units there, and that number worked. But we've had a couple of proposals since then where that number is too limiting. And the proposal that the folks that we have sold the property to or agreed to sell it to are looking at smaller, more affordable units, and the 14-unit limit doesn't work for that. And we have a limit on floor area ratio, which is the amount of floor space that can be put on a site. We've also got limitations on parcel cover, which is the footprint limitation. So we really don't need the units per hectare regulation. That was a bit of overkill on the first go-around. So we are recommending that regulation, the 28 units per hectare, simply get removed from the RPN zone, and we rely on the FAR and the parcel cover as we do in every other residential zone to control density.
Thank you. Questions of our planner, please? Good. Okay, someone like to bring that staff recommendation forward?
So
please?
just a note, the staff recommendation is actually not quite written quite right, so what is the name of the, so Trish, do you want to read it as a, do you have the, no, do you have the bylaw, or is it attached to that? Sorry, I just noticed that.
Yeah. And what am I reading?
Well, we need to read the staff recommendation, which would say that bylaw number 2016-016, a bylaw to amend zoning bylaw number 2040, to amend the density regulations in the RPM residential pocket neighborhood zone, be introduced and given first and second reading. And then would we just be giving two today, and then, or are we doing?
Normally, we just do first reading, and then we go to public hearing, and after public hearing, we go second, third, and adoption. But we can go first and second if council would rather, either or.
I think in the interest of moving it forward.
Let's do first and second.
May I just ask a question? So if we change, this is a zoning amendment to that zone, right? The RPN zone?
That's correct.
Would we consider, and I don't know if there's something like this, a zoning variance? Is there such a thing?
There is such a thing, but you can't vary use or density. That's a provincial.
Oh, you can't vary density.
So this
Okay,
is
so
a
that's why we're
density,
doing, because
exactly.
I was thinking it was just a one-off thing, so.
But it actually puts it in more, the reason that we've brought it forward, not just by the applicant, is it makes it consistent to our other zones. What we're doing is aligning it with our other zones as
Okay.
well as this. So
Okay.
it's a good move to make, consistency-wise anyway.
Councillor Carlson.
The single-story clause in the zoning, is that something that could be changed by variance?
Yes, that could be varied.
Okay, other questions of the planner? Someone like to bring the recommendation forward, please? Councillor Booth.
I'd like to recommend that council pass the following resolution, that bylaw 2016-018 to amend the zoning bylaw to remove section 10.6.5C and renumber accordingly, receive first reading and proceed to public hearing on May the 24th, 2016.
Sorry, just so it was the
Sorry.
one that I read out. It's the same
Oh, sorry.
message exactly, but it's just
Sorry.
the word, we
The
didn't
wording
write the
as
wording
referrals.
quite right there.
Okay, as amended.
it, yeah.
Thank you.
And it's first and second
First,
reading?
first and second.
Okay.
Oh,
Seconder,
first and
please.
second, yeah.
Have a seconder, please? Councillor Peak, thank you. Any further discussion? Just gets us set up. All in favor? Thank you. Opposed?
I'm in favor.
In favor. Just motion's carried, none opposed. Thank you. Okay, we're moving on to councillor reports. Councillor Peak.
Okay. I'm not going to take a lot of time. I've done work with the Cultural Task Force, attended the Day of Mourning down at Powell Beach with the tree planting, attended, as we all did, the safety breakfast, which was a wonderful breakfast. Thank you very much, Chris, for you and your staff and the safety committee. Like the mayor, I attended the Blossom Pageant judging and crowning, and I took my 7-year-old granddaughter, and she was just thought it was wonderful. Got high on sugar at the midway point and continued to get herself folded up in the seat. I want to congratulate the girls that competed, just wonderful individuals. And I really want to acknowledge the work from the committee, so from Leanne and Karen and Pat. They produce a very professional program both Friday and Saturday night, and I think they are to be commended for the work they do on behalf of our community. It was just a great thing. This weekend on Sunday, I did the tea at the top with the Fur Brigade Trail, and we acknowledged the celebration of the award of recognition from BC Heritage, and Henry Seelman was there from the Trail of the Okanagan, David Gregory there from the Heritage Commission, and I on behalf of council, as the mayor wasn't able to be there. And there were over 100 people that attended. The ladies actually had tea and all laid out beautifully with doilies and tablecloths, and we had sliced lemon and sugar cubes and mint, and it was just wonderful. People really appreciated it.
Did you bike or hike?
I did a little bit of both.
Councillor Holmes.
I don't have a lot to report. I'm on the writing team of for the cultural plan, and I've been working pretty much full time on that, and I'm pretty tired.
Me too.
Councillor Carlson.
I went to the Mother's Day, I guess it wasn't, the plant sale up at the Ornamental Gardens, and apparently on Saturday you had to, park kilometers away to try and get there. I think it went very well. They made lots of money for the Friends of the Gardens. And I'm going on Thursday evening to Vancouver for the BC Library Trustees Association Conference.
Nice.
So I imagine that next time we see you, we'll have something to report that may be of interest. I'm hoping to take some photos or some information from the new Summerland library so we can brag a little bit.
Good.
Councillor Booth.
On April 27th, I attended the Water Advisory Committee. I'm the liaison there. And yes, we are talking about domestic second service and all of that stuff too. May the 5th April the 28th and May the 5th were back-to-back RDOS meetings. On the April the 28th one, the thing that I wanted to talk about briefly is that we had another presentation by Bryn White with the South Okanagan Similkameen Conservation Society, I think. And so she has been given the go-ahead. It doesn't cost us anything at this point, to continue with public consultation to determine if there is an appetite for a conservation fund, either regionally or sub-regionally. So that's kind of exciting. And I want to talk to the whole group about this farm-to-table fundraiser that we're working on, but tonight's not the night. But one thing I do want to say tonight is there was an editorial in the Penticton Herald today, and I just want it to be on public record. I will be speaking personally to James. Hopefully he'll get back to me tomorrow. I just want it on the public record that although there is a repeated rumor that I am running for provincial government in the next election, I absolutely am not. I was elected to fulfill my term here for 4 years as a councillor of Summerland, and that's fully what I intend to do. So, please, if you hear the rumor yet again, if you could speak on my behalf, it would be much appreciated. Thank you.
Councillor Mark.
What's the rhinoceros party going to do?
Not running for any party.
I represented the mayor and council at the May Day festivities down at Jarrow Park on Saturday, and enjoyed a breakfast cooked by Rick and Mike for the Health and Safety Week, and attended the Business After Business at the Kettle Valley Railway. And one of the interesting announcements at that event was that the Kettle Valley Railway and Dirty Laundry are teaming up on their marketing, and it sounds like they're going to really be able to do something together there. And also attended a school budget meeting, which was interesting, and don't know what would come out of it, but you know, we heard about their difficulties at this budget presentation.
Councillor Trainer.
I was just thinking about how the Train and Dirty Laundry were gonna coordinate their marketing. Because a lot of their marketing is like bras and stuff like that. Anyway.
Your imagination is running over.
I know. I went to the NeighborLink annual dinner last Monday, and it was really nice. It was at Santorini's, and it was really great because a lot of local businesses donate gift baskets and different services, so that was a fun event. And I just wanted to say that we only have 26 people registered for Bike to Work Week, and there's... So if you haven't registered yet, please register. There's lots of great prizes, and we've been putting a lot of effort into organizing the celebration stations every morning, which will be next to the library. So, and you don't have to bike to work. You can bike anywhere during that week. So register. It only takes 2 seconds. And then also the Giant's Head Grind is next Saturday. And there's tons of people registered for that, which is awesome. The last day to register a team is on the 15th, which is this Sunday. But you can register as an individual, I believe, up until right before it. And I'm registered to run up it. You can run, you can bike, or you can do both. And yeah, it's a really great event. Because I have to work the farmer's market.
Oh. Can you register to run down it?
That's
nice up to bike up.
Can I roll?
It's really good.
Bike
I
down.
registered for that too.
Yeah.
Bike.
Oh, we're getting
Okay,
silly.
thank you, Councillor Carlson.
Trainer.
Whoever you
I
are.
did that twice today. Yeah. Good thing I kept me mixing up too many other people. Press. Any comments from the press or questions?
You said that the accepted condition on the one condition offer on the former RCMP land was 105,000. Is that correct?
705.
Was what?
705.
Okay, well, I'm glad I asked that one.
What did she say?
Was that in fact the high offer? You said there were 2.
That was the high offer.
It was, okay.
Yes.
So the possible use of the land was not considered in the acceptance?
We didn't do an RFP, it was just an offer to purchase the land.
So 705,000, okay. And when will that close?
It's subject to the, this motion that we had tonight, so it'll be after the public hearing and after that's finally adopted, so we don't have the date set.
Okay, thank you very much.
John, any questions? I guess they were devoid of members of the public at this time, I believe. Any other questions? Okay, with that, I'd like to have a motion for adjournment, please. Councillor Holmes, Councillor Barkville, thank you. All in favor? Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.